Hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen. And hello, lady gentlemen and gentlemen, ladies. Andy here with another Christmas live stream. For those of you who are a little bit alone over the Christmas/holiday period, you can use this as a coaching call or a hangout or share your wins or any of that stuff. I have barely a voice at the moment. I am a little bit sick, so I may end this early. We shall see. I'll last for as long as I can. Or I may just be a coughing mess the entire time, but I'll share some stuff while we wait for some of your questions to come in. I've obviously already been typing it in the chat to a couple of you, but I thought this was cool. So this was like my Spotify podcast, and it's given me a summary of like the most popular countries. So this is just from my Spotify. This is not YouTube or my blog or anything else, but Germany is by far my biggest listeners, way more than the United States, which is a country with infinitely more people. Yeah, Chad, you say Germany number one. The same thing is probably true on my YouTube channel. I think on my YouTube channel, it's like United States first, I believe Canada second, and then I think Germany's like third, not too far behind. And this is a general trend from like pretty much every content creator that I've spoken to that covers like some sort of just general self-improvement and a lot of other like niches as well. Germany seems to be really fucking popular when it comes to like English language self-improvement stuff. So hello Germans, greetings from Germany. I don't know why, but Germany just seems to like love consuming a lot of like self-improvement content. Probably because Germans are generally speaking, and this is from all the German friends that I've had, and we've had lots of German clients. Germans love being told like, do this and then do that and then do this and you'll probably get the results. And Germans are some of my favorite people to work with because for the most part, they'll just shut the fuck up and take action. Like, and if I say to a German, hey, here are the 10 steps that will probably, get you the dating life that you want or help you build the business, they'll just go and do it and then come back and be like, all right, I've done that. What next? And you're like, okay, go do this next. And then they come back, they're like, great, I did it. What next? So they're really fun to work with. And yeah, Chad, as you said, I talk about autistic honesty, like being upfront. That's like Germans. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like Germans just by default. This is a generalization, but it's so fucking common. So many Germans will come to me and be like, hey, what do I say to get the girl? What do I say to build the business? And I'm like, well, what's in your head? Just say that. And then they're like, oh, okay, that's easy. Cool. Thanks. And they'll go and do it. So yeah, Germans are some of my favorite people to work with. They generally speaking don't worry so much about like, but what if she rejects me? They're just like, okay, you told me to say this, I'm going to go say this. Like they focus more on just like the next step that needs to be done rather than like the possible failures and all of that. So yeah, I found that pretty interesting. What else have I got to say? Okay. So I have a bunch of like random images that I'm going to share with you. I don't know what all of them are. I've seen them all, but I don't know what order they are. I sent this picture to my girlfriend. So I sleep with earplugs every night. And they're these little blue, like moldable earplugs that I put in my ears, and then outside noise doesn't disturb me, and I sleep like a baby. And the other night, I woke up in the middle of the night because my brain was like, something's wrong. Because I was having a dream that I was chewing a gummy bear. And I woke up in the middle of it, and I was like, wait, I'm chewing my earplug. And so this picture is me. I had taken the earplug out of my ear, and my sleepy brain thought that it was a gummy bear or something to eat. And I was like halfway through. Yeah, Phoenix. Oh God, no, exactly. And I woke up and I sat up in bed and I was just like, my brain was just immediately like, well, this is a real low point. Like this is definitely not edible. So yeah, shout outs to my sleepy brain. Yeah, Kimberly, gross. How do you think I felt? I woke up in the middle of chewing this and I was like, this doesn't taste good. What am I doing? And oh God, yeah, I've done all sorts of crazy shit. Like Imogen has as well, like half sleepwalking to the kitchen, and then you just start like drinking cream or something. You just open a bottle of cream and start drinking it, and you're like, well, what am I doing? Or you go, one time I started drinking like olive oil, and I was like, wait, this is not a food. Yes, you can consume. Anyway, yeah. Okay, this is from a cool game that I'm playing. Maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger. The game is called like Mutterzoin. I can't pronounce it. But it's this really nice little game. And there's quite a few little moments in the game that a character will say something that we talk about in coaching. And so for backstory with this screenshot, my character had seen some wild, like mystical, magical, crazy stuff. And normally when that happens in a game or a movie or a book or something, everybody else kind of doesn't believe that character and the character almost feels gaslit. And my character was starting to worry about, like, what if no one believes me? And so you go and talk to this older guy who's sort of your mentor. And I really fucking like this sentence. He's like, I'm certain you're not going crazy. And even if you were, that would be okay. We would look after you. I thought that was incredibly sweet and incredibly nice. So really enjoying the game. Again, the game is called Mutazoin. Maybe I'll show it on the screen. It's just this really nice chill game about like making gardens, and everyone in the game is like super nice. They talk similarly to the way that we talk about in the coaching group. Like everyone's just nice. It's just a really nice game. And so I'm on the hunt to find like nice games where everyone's nice and no one's like kind of being an asshole. Skip all of that. Ignore all of that. That's my chat log with Radical with Mr. Cam. All right. What else have I got to show you? I'll show you a couple more and then we'll answer some questions. I really liked this conversation. This was like very similar to what we talk about in the coaching. So the guy on the right here is the first one talking. And he said, if she loved me, she'd follow me. And then this guy replies, work on that definition of love you got there, pally. It's not exactly unconditional love. And this is a fallacy that or a statement that a lot of people in relationships believe. They're like, if my partner loved me, they'd do everything I want. Obvious throwaway, you say spider. Yeah, there's a big spider there, isn't there? Look at that fella. But yeah, a lot of people have this concept in relationships of if my partner loved me, they'd do what I want. And it's like, that's not how that works. And a really good book on this is a book by Byron Katie called I Need Your Love. Is That True? And it literally talks about this concept about how lots of people in relationships say, look, you love me. You're supposed to do what I want. You're supposed to follow me when I leave. You're supposed to be there for me all the time. You're supposed to do everything to make me happy. And you're basically putting all this pressure on your partner and I guess on yourself to be perfect. So I really liked that someone gently called him out and was like, that's not how love works, my friend. So yeah, I like that. Maybe we'll share one or two more. Emmy is traveling right now on vacation, and so this is like some cool flamingos she found. In case you can't tell, they're like crimson red. They're not pink. I didn't even know that was a thing, so that's kind of cool. Here's a little random cake with a little face on it that she ate. Isn't that adorable? What else we got? Okay, she went to a restaurant called Egg Slut. Yes, the restaurant is literally called Egg Slut. So I liked that. Phoenix, you say, have you played Undertale? What did I think of that? Yeah, I played Undertale. I really liked it. Undertale is a really interesting game that sort of subverts usual video games. So, God, I don't want to spoil it just in case someone has watched it or hasn't played it, sorry. I tell you what, if any of you haven't played Undertale, mute your microphone for the next 1 minute. Like, literally, it is worth playing this game without knowing anything about it. Like, literally play it without hearing anything. Okay, hopefully you've muted your microphone. If not, freaking mute it. Undertale is a really interesting game because you play through it, and in lots of video games, you kill other people, you fight enemies, you attack, and there's violence and all of that. We don't even call it violence. It's just part of a lot of video games. And so you play through the whole game, and then right at the end, there's a boss that basically calls you out, and it's like, you think you're the good guy? Look how many people you've killed. Look how many innocent things you've murdered. Like, you've just played this game and you've murdered people. Yes, I'm calling you out, the player. Like, it specifically says you, the player, have killed all these people. And you didn't have to. You chose to. And you're like, what do you mean I didn't have to? I was playing a game. I had to pass the game. And then you go back and you reset the game and you realize there is a way to get through every single battle and every single fight with every single supposed enemy without attacking them. There are ways to like get around it. You can talk to them. You can just leave the battle. And then you play through the game and it's called like the pacifist run where you don't kill anyone. And you're like, holy fuck, I can make it through this entire game without killing anyone. And then you get like the proper ending or the better ending. So that game blew my mind. I've never had a game where you get to the end and then it calls you out and it's like, hey, did you really have to be this violent? You killed everyone. And you're like, but I was just playing a game. And it's like, no, you chose to kill everyone because of your preconceived notions that violence solves problems and blah, blah, blah. The game isn't that preachy, but yeah, I found that game fascinating. So Phoenix, good shout for Undertale. I don't know if you know Phoenix, but they're making a sequel. It's called Delta Rune, which is just an anagram of Undertale. They've rearranged the letters, and there's already part 1 and part 2 of that. It's going to be a 5-part series. You can play part 1 and 2 for free. So, yeah. What other questions we got here? Phoenix, you and I already had a little chat about the movie that you talked about, Guys and Dolls. My partner is a real life sex doll. And I mentioned that there's a movie called Lars and the Real Girl that talks about the same thing, that some guys who feel like they cannot get a girlfriend or feel like they're lonely in love will go to like sex toys and sex robots, I guess you would say, sex dolls, and AI girlfriends. Like, that's a big thing. I don't know if any of you know about that, but AI chatbots are almost at the point where they're like almost talk toable like a person. They're pretty decent, is my understanding. And so, yeah, I think that's something that's going to happen a lot more. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people that decide I can't compete or I don't want to be in the dating market. Like, it brings up feelings of like rejection and fear and I guess not being good enough. I think that's the main fear or the feeling that people have when it comes to relationships and love and sex and dating. And so I can see a lot of people turning to the internet or turning to chatbots or turning to like sex dolls. And to be honest, people have done that, especially men, for a long time. Like, there's been masturbation, porn magazines, high-speed internet porn. That's something that men have always done, but I think it's going to be even more enticing when we get to the point where there's like a real live, almost human feeling sex doll that can talk to you basically like a human. You know, like ChatGPT is pretty good. I don't think we're far off that being a reality when we see like people outside that have like literal female bots walking around. So I don't think we're far away from that. But I think that's something that's always sort of been done. People do that. That's just like a part of the human endeavor, right? If you can't achieve something, your brain will try and figure out ways to get the next best thing, like as a survival mechanism. So yeah, I don't see it as any different from that. Dr. Chad, thank you for sharing your wins. Says wins today. Number 1, I went to the gym. I forgot part of my gym stuff, so I went home. I was only annoyed for a second and then accepted that. That's amazing. Like, honestly, if we can get to a point where even the little things, and the big things as well, but even the little things don't really bother us that much, or we feel bothered, and then we work through it, we process it, we go, hey, what are 3 reasons why this could be a potential good thing? What are 3 reasons why I'm grateful this happened? If we can get to a point where we're grateful for stuff that used to piss us off, man, life just feels like a joy. We're not annoyed at everything. You know, so many of us just walk around being annoyed at literally everything all the time, constantly. And you might think that you're not, but it comes out in little ways. It's like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. That shouldn't have happened. I should have done this. You know, should. If we can let go of that and just say, you know what, it happened, cool. What am I going to do about it? Man, then we're a lot more empowered. We move from like childhood up to adulthood or adolescence. A lot of us walk around, you know, I still do sometimes. We walk around as big children. We're like demanding things of other people, demanding things of the universe. This should be like this. I shouldn't have forgotten my gym bag. It's like, you did, so what are you going to do about it? But yeah, we walk around getting annoyed at everything. So brilliant stuff, my man. And then your second win was 4 new applications. And your third win, you found 3 new potentially employers whose career page I will check weekly. That's really cool. Good job. I love the little wins. That's amazing. Obvious throwaway says, my chest got too big and I have to replace my favorite jacket, which is both a win and unfortunate because I liked that jacket. Yeah. That's one of the things about hitting the gym is your body changes a lot, and that's the point. But then at some point you're like, wait, my clothes don't fit. Either they're too big or they're too small. Yeah, it's one of the fun parts of all this stuff. Phoenix says, I actually am annoyed by everything. Yeah. You say it's what happens when you're constantly told what you should be doing and no one else worries about it. Yeah, and that's why I try not to use the word should, because when we use the word should, you just feel guilty if you're not doing what someone told you that you should do, you know? So, yeah. Kimberly says, I didn't mute. I'm not a video gamer at all, but that feels not cool. Maybe it's just me, but my understanding of these kind of games is that's the point for most of them. Sensitive me would not like that. Yeah, and anytime we feel like our sensitive selves getting annoyed by something or like triggered by something or not liking something, for me, I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. There's clearly something I'm attached to right now or something that I'm hanging on to, some story that I have. You know, you could play around with the story of like that's not cool. Is that true? Or is it just that I'm seeing it as not cool? Or you could play around with the story of like, the game shouldn't do that, which is, I don't know if you realize, but that's sort of the underlying story that you have here is like, the game shouldn't have done that. And then you just play around with that a little bit, like gently, but you're like, is that true that they shouldn't have done that? What are some reasons why they should have done that? Or what are some possible benefits of what they did? So yeah, I know the feeling, believe me, I know the feeling of like being annoyed by something or going, that doesn't feel good, like sensitive me. I'm one of the most sensitive people that you'll meet. I get triggered by a lot of stuff. And anytime I do get triggered by something, I'm like, okay, I'm clearly still attached to something, or there's some story in my head that they shouldn't have done this, or it should have been like this. Basically, I'm trying to dictate other people how the world should be. And I go in there and like play with that. So yeah, that's one of the fun things to play around with a little bit. You going to say just an opinion, dude? Yeah, I know it's an opinion, but one of my favorite quotes, which is like very confrontational, so be gentle with this quote, but it's from David Hawkins, and he says, an opinion is worth exactly zero. And I try and apply that to my own life too. You know, there are lots of times that I get caught up in my opinions, and then someone will say, is that true? And then I'll be like, it's just an opinion. But yeah, opinions are funny things. We get very like caught up in them. Dr. Chad says, to be honest, after Spec Ops The Line, no game was able to annoy me with its twist. Yeah, okay. So I haven't played Spec Ops The Line, but I know exactly what happens. And maybe I won't spoil that either, but Chad, you and I know what happens in that. My God, I watched playthroughs of the game, like people playing it, and I was like, holy crap. Holy crap. I cannot believe, like, yeah, obvious throwaway, you go on to say, highly recommend it. It's not a game that I would play because it's like very violent, but that's the point, that's the message that it's trying to make. It's basically trying to like gently call out, I think, just people that want to start wars. I think America in particular, and like being gung-ho for wars, but lots of other countries are gung-ho for war. It's not just America. But yeah, the twist in that blew my mind, dude. I will say the one difference in Spec Ops The Line is you don't have a choice. Like you could not play the game. Whereas in Undertale, when you play through it the second time, you realize like, oh shit, I had a choice to not do this stuff. There was literally another option if I wanted to keep playing the game. Whereas Spec Ops The Line basically says, you know, this was a bad decision, shouldn't have done this, but there was no other choice other than to turn it off, which is always like a choice. It's always like something that we can do. But yeah, man. Yeah. Amazing. Really good list. Obvious throwaway says very psychologically heavy though, not something for the faint of heart. Yeah, I agree with that. When I watched someone else play through it, I had to pause and say like, this is heavy shit. Like, I don't know if I can keep watching this for sure. Yeah, I agree with what you say, obvious throwaway. Like the fact that you sort of don't have a choice if you want to keep playing the game is exactly how the main character feels. I agree with you. Yeah. And I really liked the aspects of like I guess you would say like craziness. Like there's moments where, remember he repeats the scene where you're in the helicopter like shooting, but it's different the second time and you're sort of like doubting. And he's basically what's called an unreliable narrator, where half of the game is like him dreaming and not quite real. And I think they demonstrated that by it would fade to white instead of fading to black if it was a dream sequence. I can't quite remember, but yeah, it was crazy game. Thank you for bringing that up. I really like that. Kimberly, why would you say that? So I guess you're referring to when I said like opinions are worthless. Okay, it's more like this. Opinions are not based in reality. They're the hypothetical, and the hypothetical is not the real. Plus, often when we have an opinion, we're missing a lot of context. Like our brain will jump to an opinion and will blurt something out, and it's missing so much context, so much nuance, so much detail. And so if you're on the pathway to truth, if you're on the pathway to, it's a big word, but like enlightenment, realizing that a lot of your own opinions, like my own opinions, are fundamentally not aligned with reality, and they're often a knee-jerk reaction to something. They're based in emotion a lot of the time. I agree with you. I think they're interesting. Yeah, we're all natural storytellers, which is what an opinion is. It's a story. It can just help to realize that the stories we're telling are just that. They're stories. And that's not to judge them or say that they're bad. It's not to say that opinions are bad. It's just that they're not grounded in reality. So when I say worthless, and when David Hawkins says worthless, Often people take that as a value judgment. You're saying that they're bad, that they're worthless. No, no, no. It's that they're not grounded in reality. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. You go on to say, Matt, sorry, I recognize I'm irritable, all PMS, but dude, yeah, do you know how many people in the coaching get grumpy? Do you know how many people in the live chat get grumpy? And this is what we're all working on. We're all seeing that we're all humans. We get emotional sometimes. We react to stuff. And I believe it was the game that I showed on the screen. No, wait, I didn't show this on the screen. But I will show this on the screen because I like this. This is like very relevant to today's conversation. All right, let me share this. Everybody is just trying the best that they know. And that's very similar to a David Hawkins quote that I like. Everybody is just doing the best that they can. You know, we're all doing our best. Sometimes we get grumpy. Phoenix, Muta, Xeon, yes, that's the game. So sometimes we get grumpy, sometimes we get irritable. I get like that too. Sometimes we argue with reality. We wish someone wouldn't say something that they said. We wish that we would be different. It's like, that just makes you human, you know? Yeah. Dr. Chad says, anyone here who played Catherine? I've thought about it like a lot of times. Like I've thought about that a lot, playing it, but yeah, I just haven't ever gotten around to it. I think because of the puzzle part of it. And I love puzzle games, but yeah. Is that a decent recommendation that you're making? Like I've heard the story is like really good and it deals with like mental health or loss or something like that. So yeah. Kimberly says, you seem to be using a lot of words that are black and white. Interesting. So a big part of what I do on this channel is not use language that is black and white. I aim to fill in the gaps in nuance. I'm very much a big practicer of something called non-dualism, which is not making things black and white. And often what we do is we project onto stuff. So we project our own black and white thinking and we make assumptions. I can't tell you how many times I've read someone else's stuff. Like David Hawkins is a really good example. And I'd be like, wow, he's talking so black and white. He's making a lot of like hard definitions. He's judging a lot of stuff. He's being very blunt. That doesn't sit right with me. And then I'll just sit with that. And I'll come back to it a couple of months later and I'll be like, wait, holy fuck, he wasn't being black and white at all. I was making a lot of assumptions. I was putting my own judgments on stuff. I was the one doing black and white thinking. And so it's often us. Maybe it's always us. And we put it onto other people. There's a really good quote from one of my favorite people, Byron Katie. And she says, people don't hear what you said. They hear what they think you said. And maybe there's a little bit of this going on here. Like, and if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to listen to it. But yeah, I just know in my own life when I'm annoyed or triggered by something and the person that I'm listening to seems to be using black and white language and stuff like that, a lot of the time it's just me. You're going to say your opinions on words are not sitting well with me. They don't have to. Like, you can even play around with that. Andy's words should sit well with me. Is that true? Like, there's an implied statement here that you might not realize. And the implied statement is, Andy's words should sit well with me. Or, Andy's words don't sit well with me, and that's bad. You can kind of play around with that a little bit and be like, Andy's words don't sit well with me. That's okay. Doesn't have to. Other people's words don't have to sit well with me. You know, there's always that free choice to not listen or to, yeah, just not listen. But yeah, and that's not me telling you to leave, obviously, like to be very clear. But yeah, words don't have to sit well with us. Dr. Chad says, it is interesting, but it's dark. So you're talking about Catherine, the game. It's about mental health, love, commitment, marriage, psychological issues. Yeah, and I like games that talk about that, but in almost like a light-hearted way, I guess I would say. There are lots of games and lots of movies and lots of shows that deal with these sort of dark themes. And after consuming a lot of that, at some point I was like, okay, I think I've had my fill of like staring into the abyss. Like I used to play a lot of horror games, a lot of games that like wanted me to be upset and all of that. I don't know if Catherine is like that. But at some point I was like, all right, I've done that. I've read lots of that. I understand all of that. I'm going to go towards the more positive stuff. So I like to play more chill games that deal with those same topics. And the game that I'm playing now, Muta Zoini, is like that a lot. You go on to say, it sounds more like a disconnect of meaning. Worthless can be anywhere from not a bad thing, just not something that really has impact, to the more derogatory uses of it. Yeah, really good point. You're sort of like pointing out what I'm trying to say here. which is, I guess you would almost look at the word worthless as doesn't have inherent worth in itself, or you can kind of think of it like this. Maybe we can like bridge the gap here a little bit, because I can tell that some of us, are speaking past each other, and that's, on me as well. I'm a little bit tired right now, so maybe that has something to do with it. But to bridge this whole gap, a philosophy that will really blow your mind if you can all wrap your head around it is, let me put it on the screen. Everything is a story, and you're in control of the stories that you tell. So this is something that I put in the Play to Win video course, and it can really help to, often we get bogged down in like definitions and debating like, what does this word mean? What is that? What is the truth here? And we're trying to hit some sort of truth, but it can help to realize that all we're really doing when we hunt for meaning is we're telling stories, and we're making up stories. I can tell a story that opinions are worthless. You could tell a story that opinions are great and they're meaningful, but we're both just telling a story. And there's plenty of evidence for both of those opinions or both of those stories. And at some point you realize everything that everyone is saying in life is a story. And there's compelling evidence either way, one way or the other. And so if it's all just stories, let's at least acknowledge and be aware of the fact that we're telling stories, and not get so bogged down in like, my story is true and your story is wrong. So it can help to realize that all we're ever doing is telling stories. That's all I'm ever doing when I sit here in front of all of you. But yeah. Phoenix says, anything that's not dark seems tone deaf to me. Yeah, that's interesting. But that's, I would say, because this is relevant, tell our story that the world is a dark place. You have a story in your head, and, we've shared this, we've talked about this a lot with you. You have a story that your default story is that the world is a harsh, dark place. And so anything less than that, or anything that transcends that or doesn't acknowledge that, your brain will say, no, there's something missing here. I can tell a story that the world is a beautiful place, and we will both be correct. We are both just telling stories. Or you could say we're both not correct. The world just is, and it is us that comes in and states our opinion about it or our story about it. So you definitely have an opinion that the world is a harsh place. And so fair enough. You'll see anything less than that or anything outside of that as like wrong or missing something. I used to feel like that too, man. When I was like depressed and suicidal, anything that was like happy-go-lucky, I'd be like, but why haven't you acknowledged the pain and suffering of life? And I didn't realize that it was me projecting my own pain and suffering onto stuff. I didn't realize that I was the one that was hurting, and I was assuming that the whole world itself must have been a place for suffering and pain and angst and all of that. When you work through depression, when you work on just really liking yourself and being really happy and liking people around you, which is a process, man. Like, you probably won't just wake up and be happy. When you get to that point, you realize that you were projecting unhappiness onto everything. And then when you're at that point where you're projecting happiness onto everything, you realize that you're just doing that. The world just is. It isn't good. It isn't bad. It isn't any of that stuff. That's our opinion. There's a really good quote on this. Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And so again, this is all just stories. I sit here and tell a story that the world is a beautiful, wonderful, loving place. You tell the story that it's dark, and if you don't acknowledge that, you're missing that. But we're both just telling stories. And so if we're going to tell stories, I choose to tell the stories that help me be the person that I want to be, that get me closer to my goals. And I fully acknowledge I'm telling a story. When I say the world is a beautiful place and everyone's lovely and women are nice and men are nice, like, I'm telling a story, but it's a story that gets me closer to my goals. And I would rather tell that story than a negative story. And if this kind of stuff doesn't resonate with you, if you're like, but you're just telling stories, you're just making stuff up, then tell a neutral, like, don't tell a story, just be neutral. Just walk around going, that's a chair. This is a cup. That girl said no to me. Okay, I will go talk to the next woman. That's being neutral. That's sort of like stoicism. It also might be called enlightenment if you get to a point where you're just like, things just are. They're not good or bad. This isn't a good or a bad water bottle. Good or bad according to what definition? I then have to define what definition I'm judging this bottle by. If I say this is a good bottle according to being a green bottle, yeah, it's very green, so it's very good. But if I say this is a good bottle in terms of like being small and compact, no, it's a terrible bottle. It's too big. I can't fit this in my pocket. And so when we label something good or bad, when we say something is dark or good or evil or this, we have to get very clear if we want to speak the truth about how we're defining good or bad. Like, what metrics are we using, basically, is what I'm saying. So Yeah. I feel like we're getting a little bit stuck in the weeds here, but whatever. This is an interesting discussion for me. I don't know if you guys and girls are finding it interesting or if this is just kind of going off the rails here. There are a lot of like nuances to this, and there is a lot of information that I have that you might not have yet. And so some of this conversation can sometimes just be a little esoteric. It was for me when I first started listening to this shit about like philosophy and Buddhism and all of this stuff. I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Everything's a story. No, it's not. The world sucks, or Hitler's bad, or this thing's awful. And my brain would just judge stuff. And I was so used to that by default. So yeah, Chad, you say it is rather staring into the abyss. Yeah, and sometimes that can be helpful. Like, Phoenix, I guess what you're saying here, brother, where you're like, anything that's not dark seems tone deaf to me. I guess what you're saying is like, look, I want to acknowledge in the world that there is murder, there is like suffering, like, yeah, that stuff exists. And so to be clear, none of this is about like completely pretending that that doesn't exist, but you notice it, you acknowledge it, you say, yeah, that is what it is. And then you choose to focus on the positive. So you're not like blocking out, I guess you are blocking out the negative, but you're aware it's there. I'm aware there's an abyss there. I just choose not to look at it because that brought me a lot of depression and suicide. So why would I look at that? Obvious Throwaway says, yeah, this is a really good statement, brother. Having had a lot of dips into different mental health states, things resonate with you more the less you have to twist them through your filter. Yeah, we all walk around with a filter, and the entire point of something like enlightenment is to let go of that filter and to just say, I'm going to see things as they are without my stories about them, without my opinions about them, without my judgment as to whether this is good, this is bad, this is how it should be, that should be like that, without me twisting people's words, which is something that we all do. We, again, to really, if you guys and girls can get this, to drill this into your head, we don't hear what people say. We hear what they think what we think they said. Like, there's so much that's lost in the communication of just like, you're basically running a translation filter, both people are, all the time. Like if you're in a really positive headspace, you will be translating something, you'll be filtering something that someone else said, completely different to when you're grumpy or when you're in a bad mood or you didn't sleep very well or you're emotional. Like literally someone could say the exact same thing and you'll take it a completely different way. You'll misunderstand what they say, you'll misinterpret, you put your lens over the top of it, your filter, and we all do that. And part of the goal of something like enlightenment, God, I'm dying, or Buddhism is to let go of that filter or have a little bit less of that filter each day, week, month, or year, and just listen to what the person said and to just sit there with what they said and try and figure out the context of what they're saying, like who they are as a person. We're basically talking about empathy, like trying to figure out who is that person and what are the current circumstances of their life as they're trying to tell me this thing, rather than my own assumptions about who they are and my assumptions about what they're saying and all of that stuff. So yeah, this is like a lifelong mission. I'm not perfect with this stuff at all. But yeah, yeah, obvious throwaway, dude. I can relate to this sentence so much, man. You're like, when I was deeply depressed, anything happy seemed basically pants on head retarded. Me too. So I had a grandfather who was unbelievably happy-go-lucky, and I literally thought he was the stupidest man on the planet because he would always focus on the positive. He'd live this like long, interesting life, but I just thought he was retarded. But when I actually listened, like once I worked through my own depression and got over my own negative thinking and all of that, which took years, that took a while. Then when I would listen to him, I would actually just see him for who he is, like a nuanced, complicated human being, rather than I used to think he was just some one-dimensional retard. I literally thought he was retarded like you. I actually thought my grandfather was one of the stupidest men on the planet. But when I worked through my own depression, I would sit down and listen to him and listen to the stories that he'd tell and ask him questions and actually try and get to know him properly instead of who I thought he was. In other words, I let go of my preconceived judgments about him. And man, he had lived the most amazing, interesting life. He'd gone to war for a couple of years and his family grew up extremely poor to the point where they had like 13 brothers and sisters. And I think one of them died from just like going through a winter. He grew up in Ireland in the like potato famine and like all the civil wars and all of that. He just went through a lot of shit. And he had chosen intentionally to focus on the positive. And so what I thought was him being too stupid to know that the world sucked and the world is evil and there's bad stuff. When I thought that, Man, I was missing so much nuance and subtlety. When I actually just listened to him, like literally listened to him, I realized that, like I said, he was making a conscious choice to choose the positive. A very conscious choice that was difficult for him at the start, given everything he'd gone through. So, yeah, obvious or away, I can absolutely relate to this, man. You're going to say, nowadays, I'm more neutral and things in general are fine. When I'm in a good mood, darker things don't interest me. Yeah, exactly. And then you find yourself, I'm interested to see if you're going to say this. I'm reading through, but you haven't said it. I'm curious, I'll ask you, when you're in a darker mood, do darker things interest you? Because I've found that, like, it doesn't happen as much anymore. But when I'm in a really, really, let's say a couple of years, like a year or two ago, when I was in a dark mood, my brain would be like, all right, time to go watch the news, or time to go look at people arguing on Twitter, time to go into the YouTube comments and like hunt for negative comments so that I can say, yeah, I'm the victim. This sucks. It sucks. So yeah, the brain will, in its current like mode, if you're in a positive mode, it will hunt for that. If you're in a negative mode, you will hunt for that. And you'll actively seek that out. Yeah. Kimberly says, perhaps I feel like you are constantly trying to diagnose or fix something in the way someone is asking a question. It makes me feel uncomfortable to watch. Yeah, okay. I'll try and say this in a kind way. If that makes you uncomfortable to watch, I would not be on this channel. And that's not me saying, please leave, but like, this is me. And you see what I was talking about before, when we're saying something should be different, or like, it's fine to feel uncomfortable, but like, you are now at the point, I'm trying to say this in a nice way that isn't combative, because I can see you're in a sensitive mood. You've literally said that. I'm in a sensitive mood. My channel is me literally trying to help people. That is the point of this channel. And I'll be very, very, very clear on this. I am not going to change the way that I help people. Part of how I help people is I see the language that people are using. I see the effect that it has on them. And then I get in there and say, what if we look at it from a different perspective? If you don't like that, this is not the channel for you. I'll be very blunt about that. And I'll say that generally to everyone. But I'm only saying this now because I'm trying to say this in a way that extends an olive branch to you. But I think I've been very fair. I think if you go back and watch the stream, I've been very fair to you today. And I think you've had a problem with everything that I've said. I don't have a problem with what you're saying. I think you're just speaking your mind and saying your feelings. I can see the stories that you're getting caught up in. But if you aren't comfortable with the way that I help people and it makes you deeply uncomfortable, I would not be here, because I'm not going to change that. It's very effective. I have been a coach for 4 or 5 years now. This is the way that helps people the most effectively for me. And so I'm going to continue doing that. All of that said, I really appreciate you speaking your mind. I think you're doing a really good job of trying to work through some of the thoughts you're having, but it's very clear that you're currently uncomfortable. I wouldn't be here. Like, that's how I handle my dating life. If someone's uncomfortable, I say, hey, let's not do this then. Don't sit here and make yourself uncomfortable. If someone came to a live stream and was uncomfortable, I would say, that's okay, but like, why are you hurting yourself? Don't sit here and keep watching if it makes you uncomfortable. If someone was friends with me and wasn't comfortable with something I was doing, I would be like, don't be friends with me, or would you like some space? So, yeah. Again, I'm trying to say that in the nicest way, but if I'm honest, I am getting the feeling that almost everything I'm saying to you is, in your mind, triggering you. So, yeah, I want to keep these streams, excuse me, relatively positive. And I'm not saying not to feel emotions, but I feel like we're just getting bogged down now in almost an argument, Kimberly. And like, that is not blaming you for the argument. I'm doing it as much as you, yes. But yeah, if this isn't something you want to watch, then don't. Like, why would you watch something that makes you uncomfortable? You don't have to. You know, you can turn it off. All right, Obvious Throwaway says, now I'm more neutral. Yeah, we talked about that before. Yeah, as you said, basically, you interpret the world through your current mental state, and anything that clashes with your mental state will require effort to interact with. Okay, yeah. So, again, I'm trying to do this in a way that doesn't call anyone out, but Kimberly, this might be how you're feeling right now. It's like when you're in a certain mental state, it can feel like certain things are a little bit clashing, or they're a lot for us to handle. And so in those cases, something that can help a lot is to just take a little bit of space and go like, all right, I don't think I'm in the mental space to deal with this right now. So yeah, Obvious or away, I agree. And things that require basically zero effort. Yeah, you could almost say things that like align with how we're currently feeling. Like, again, when we're in a very angry mood, we will seek out or we will align with stuff that reinforces that mood because it's almost safe. So that's why you'll see people that are really angry, like inside themselves, will go to politics and watch lots of politics and get frustrated. This politician did this, or this new law's being enacted. And that is a really good sign if we look at the content that we're watching or what we're doing or how we're going about our day. That's a really good indicator that maybe there's some stuff inside us that we can clean up. And so if we're like finding ourselves getting pissed off at stuff all the time, maybe there's something inside us that's pissing us off and we can deal with that. Or if we're really afraid of everything all the time, maybe we haven't dealt with some of the fears inside us. So yeah, we sort of align ourselves with stuff that reinforces our current headspace. And if we're in a happy mood, as you've already acknowledged, then we go towards that stuff. Yeah. David. Hello, by the way, David. You say, if I look at the abyss, acknowledging that the abyss is there, and I continue living my life without giving too much importance to the abyss. Yeah. And I would be a hypocrite if I said, like, I never looked at the abyss. I did for a long time. You know, I was depressed and suicidal. That's why I looked at suffering, and I would follow wars, and I would literally read Wikipedia articles on the horrors of war and what Hitler did and, you know, what Pol Pot did and, you know, what's it called, Chairman Mao in China, like all of these people. I'd be like, how could you kill like all these innocent people? I'd look up stuff about serial killers. I would look up stuff about serious mental health issues. Like I basically chose to, I guess I didn't know that I was doing it, but I would like actively choose to look into the abyss. And it was a lot of pain. And ultimately, I'm glad I did that because it did show me how you feel when you focus on the negative, how you feel when you believe your own like triggered thoughts, how you feel when you believe your own emotions and stuff like that. So I'm glad I did that, but it isn't something that other people have to repeat. And I think I would have done it a lot more. Like I would have focused on the negative and stared into the abyss a lot more if a lot of people didn't warn me about it. Like if there wasn't the saying, if you stare into the abyss eventually stares back. If that saying didn't exist, I probably would have stared into the abyss for years more, maybe forever, who knows. So I'm really grateful for all the people that told me, look, staring into the abyss can just bring pain and suffering. You don't have to do it. You can look a little bit if you want to, but you really don't even have to do that. Just acknowledge the abyss is there and then focus on the positive. That's why I try and say the same message. So yes, I stared at the abyss for a long time. If any of you find yourselves focusing on the negative a lot, that's okay. You don't have to beat yourself up for it. I did that for years, for decades. But it can help to just acknowledge it's there and then be like, all right, like, yeah, let's move on. Phoenix, you say, I'd have to ignore everyone else's pain and abandonment. Okay, no, this is such a beautiful point, brother. No, you don't. Why do you have to ignore everyone else's pain and abandonment? No. Do I sit here and ignore everyone's pain and abandonment? Like, do you ever get the sense that I, Andy, ignore your pain or ignore your suffering? Or do I literally sit here? Remember, this is free. I'm on a free live stream right now when I'm sick. I'm not saying that to make myself a martyr, but I am choosing to be here because I can see that a lot of you are in pain and that you're suffering and that you believe your own stories and you believe your own negative thoughts and that things bother you and they trigger you. And I can see the pathway to your happiness or your freedom. And so I sit here to try and help you. That is not me ignoring your pain or abandonment. And so, Phoenix, you right now think that the only way you can help other people or be there for other people is if you're down in the swamp with them, if you're in the abyss with them. Who do you think has a more positive impact on other people's lives? The person who's struggling and suffering and in depression themselves? Like, does a depressed person find it easy to help a lot of other people? Or the person who's risen above all of that and is more happy and stoic and full of love and joy and all of that and has enough of their own happiness and goals and needs met and wants and desires met and now they're giving back? Like, which person? I think that's an obvious statement. And so we often think, like, if I turn away from the abyss, that must mean that I'm ignoring everyone's pain and I'm pretending there aren't wars going on or that people aren't suffering. No, like, as you lift yourself up, you can help more people. One of my favorite quotes is from David Hawkins: a rising tide carries all ships or lifts all ships. As you lift yourself up, you're like the tide. You lift other people up as a consequence, not by what you say or do, but as a consequence of what you have become. In other words, and Phoenix, you're already doing a lot of this, my brother. As you start to work on your self-love, as you start to go to these meetups, as you start to overcome the stuff that happened to you in childhood. You know, you made a comment recently on the channel where you shared some of the stuff you went through in your childhood. As you rise above that stuff, and that's a process, man. You don't just like get over that stuff. You work through it and you overcome it and you recontextualize it and you reframe it and you use it as fuel and motivation to improve your life and the lives of others around you. As you do those things, you'll start to realize, oh shit, I'm now inspiring people. Like you, Phoenix, probably don't know this, but you've already inspired a couple of people. I've already had a couple of people. Cam and I talk about you sometimes. And Cam has said, wow, Phoenix is doing an amazing job. You have already inspired people by just going to the meetups, by showing up to these live streams every day, and by working through your fears, by being brave enough to share them with all of us. Like you have already inspired other people. And you will inspire way more people by not ignoring the abyss, but saying, okay, I know that's there. Like Phoenix, you've lived that. You know the pain. You shared your childhood stories. You know what pain feels like, brother. And now it's time to start walking towards the light, and people will follow you, brother. They'll go, wow, this Phoenix guy is incredibly brave. They're already saying that about you, brother. This guy's so brave. Man, he struggles. He's not perfect. Neither am I, by the way. No one is. He's really struggling. And look how much action he's taking. Look how much of a badass he is. Look how much of an absolute legend this human being is. Man, if he can do it, maybe I can. That is why my motto in my website is, if I can do it, you sure as hell can too. I went from depressed and suicidal to living a life of abundance and joy. If I can do it, you sure as hell can too. That's you, Phoenix. That's literally you. But that only happens if we acknowledge the abyss is there, acknowledge pain and suffering and all of that is there. And then we don't ignore other people's pain, but we go, okay, I'm going to work on improving my own life and maybe have a little bit of a positive impact on other people accidentally without trying to. I didn't try and do any of this stuff. Like, I didn't try and build a YouTube channel. I didn't try and build a Spotify podcast or my blog or any of that. I had no intention of doing any of that. I was just focused on my own. I don't want to use the word selfish, but like I was only focused on myself and my own goals. And at some point, some people were like, whoa, if this guy can do this stuff, maybe I can too. And then at some point, people were like, why don't you write a blog? Like you could help people. And I was like, I don't want to. Like that's a lot of work. But they kept saying like, come on, man, just do it. Share your story. And I say that to some of my clients too. I'm like, man, I really think your story could help people. So I started sharing my story, started helping people. None of this was intentional, man. And this could be you. I'm not saying that you'll have your own YouTube channel. You might. Plenty of my coaching clients have. But just by improving your life and focusing on the things you want, rather than looking back into the past and saying, okay, I don't want any of that shit. If you focus on what you do want, you will inspire people. In other words, we inspire a lot more people by focusing on what we want and joy and happiness and peace and like working towards those things rather than obsessing about pain and all of that. Again, to really underline this, the person that feels good is able to help people through their pain and abandonment way more than the person who's currently stuck right down there with them. Because when we're stuck, we just don't have as much power, man. We just don't have as much joy. David says, I remember that you used LSD. Yeah, I did. I used LSD a lot of times, and that's not me advocating one way or the other. It was incredibly helpful for me. I did it like, I don't know, 100 times over a couple of years. And I would often just do really small doses and like used it as a counseling tool. I used LSD as a tool to like give myself counseling, like therapy, like self-therapy. And I would work through a lot of my issues and talk through things and figure stuff out. So that was really helpful for me, yeah, too. Imi has used LSD a few times for the same thing. Again, I am not recommending it to everyone. Like I did literally years of research before I ever tried it the first time because I was terrified and I'd never done any drugs other than alcohol. I'd never ever thought I would be the person that would do mind-altering substances, even though alcohol is that. So other than alcohol, I never thought I'd do something like that. So excuse me. Yeah, I'm not advocating for doing it, but it was helpful for me for sure. Okay, you go on to ask more questions. With the LSD, do you think it helped you in becoming? Yes, but that was because I had a positive intention behind it. The same way as like all the therapy and counseling that I've done and like books that I've read, I've always gone in with an intention of like, I'd like to be a little bit more happy. Or I don't even know what happiness is, but I'd like to figure that out. That was my mindset at the start. So it's more about the intention than the tool. Yes, LSD can be incredibly helpful. So can all the books that I talk about, the Play to Win video course, all of that stuff. But that stuff only works if your mindset is like, I'm going to be positive, and my intention is like, I want to, like, stuff won't work if you don't have an intention. Like, a lot of the time we think just action is the only thing that matters. And I make it clear, like, action is really important. Taking action is really important. So is having like a little bit of knowledge, like reading and learning and stuff like that. Those two things are very helpful, of course, and they're basically mandatory. I wouldn't say that reading is mandatory. I'd say that like taking action is definitely mandatory. Reading and learning can be incredibly helpful, but both of those won't do anything if you don't have an intention. I think we know that because intention is often there by default. Like, you probably wouldn't be watching my content if your intention wasn't to be happier or to achieve some goals or to figure life out or whatever. Like, you wouldn't even be doing it in the first place. But we can strengthen that intention and say, no, I really want this thing. This will be so beautiful when I achieve it. I really want to do this. Like, it's really important to me. We can write out all the reasons why it feels important to us, blah, 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 blah. But an intention can really help, like setting an intention, especially for something like LSD or psychedelic drugs. Like, people talk all the time about like set an intention. And what you might do is write it down on a piece of paper. Like, you might say like, what does happiness mean? And then that's your intention. You have it on a piece of paper, and the whole trip while you're on LSD or whatever, you're just looking at that paper going, okay, yeah, what is happiness? Or how do I be happy? Or can I love myself? Or one time Imi took LSD and I sort of like sat with her, and before the trip, she wrote on a big piece of paper, everything is okay. That was her intention. She wanted to feel like she was okay and the world was okay. And excuse me, like her mental health was okay. And so that was her intention. And we just kept bringing it back to that. And any time while she was on the trip, she was like processing some stuff, like stuff that happened to her in childhood. And I'd say, hey, what did you write on your piece of paper? And she'd be like, oh yeah. And she'd pick it up and look at it, and she'd be like, yeah, everything is okay. And I do this with my coaching clients sometimes. I will get them to focus on like an intention, to set an intention in, or I'll just keep reminding them of an intention. Like, here's one of my favorite ones, and that's okay. And if you just say that at the end of every sentence, it brings you a fair bit of peace. You know, if you're like, hey, this thing's pissing me off, or this thing's triggering me, or that person shouldn't have done this thing, I wish they hadn't done that, then you add at the end of that, and that's okay. This person cut me off in traffic and I'm mad, and that's okay. This girl broke up with me and I'm heartbroken, and that's okay. Yeah, but I'm really sad and I'm crying all the time and this is awful, it feels terrible, and that's okay. And so you just keep bringing it back to that intention. And I found that really helpful, like with coaching clients, to just bring it back to an intention, to be like, it's okay that you're sad. Let's process the feelings that sit with it. It's not this terrible thing that we have to run away from. It's okay. Everything's okay. One of my other favorite ones that I'll say a lot to all of you and to my coaching clients is everything's okay and everything is going to be okay. And 99 times out of 100, when I say that, people are like, yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm just feeling emotional right now. And fair enough. We all get emotional. I get emotional. I'm often emotional when I'm sick. I'm often emotional when I'm tired. We get emotional, and that's okay. It'll be okay. Emotions eventually die down, or they work themselves out, especially if we do the work on it and we process it and we do stoicism and all of that. Yeah. Obvious throwaway. So this was like a point we were making before. You say, this is why inner work seemingly has a lot of impact on the world. It doesn't, it just moves the filter up. Yeah, so what you're talking about there is like working on your mindset and being more positive and letting go of judgment and letting go of like triggers, working through our triggers and working through the things that piss us off and the things we say shouldn't be and all of that. As we work through all of that stuff, it really does feel like the entire world changes. I did a YouTube video on this. Let me see if I can find it. It was called like Change Your Thoughts, Change the World. And it's based on basically a title. Yeah, it's based on a title of like a Byron Katie book. She literally has a book called like Change Your Thinking, Change the World. And let me share it on the screen. So I did a video literally based on this, on that book, this one up here, Change Your Thoughts, Change the World. And I talk about Byron Katie's The Work. So that's definitely a highly recommended video with what we're talking about here, as we work on our own mindset and as we learn to like love reality and love what is and not get so triggered by everything and not get frustrated when other people are just being themselves. Like a lot of times, there's even been a little bit of a discussion about this today, right? When we get frustrated that someone's being exactly who they are, and then we get a bit annoyed by that. And that's normal. I get annoyed by that too. You know, my cheeky little brain will say, that person shouldn't be the way that they are. And it's like, why? A cat meows, a dog barks, and that person bees who they are. That person is who they are. Maybe they'll change in future. Maybe they don't fucking need to change. But the one thing that I can change is myself and the story that I tell about that person. And I've just found, like you said, obvious throw away, as I let go of my own, I guess, judgments or needs of how I think other people need to be or should be. The world is a much kinder, more gentle place. Like, it's just easier to be if I let people be who they are. And I'm not perfect with that. You saw me today. I wasn't perfect with that, was I? So I'm not always perfect with that. But yeah, it's something that I feel like we're all working on. For sure. Nathan, Mr. Nathan Dumotois says, "Hey Andy, should I tell the woman that I date that I have fucked 68 escorts? One day I said that to a woman. She didn't want to date me anymore. And I also I have an erection problem. One day I was honest with a woman. I told her that only porn films and escorts managed to make me hard, and that she probably won't be able to get me to make me hard. She called me an asshole. So I don't think you're an asshole. We could definitely tell that story. I think you're a little clumsy in the way that you told her, but that's okay. Like, I've been clumsy a million times. So something that I can really teach you here is that honesty is not some tactic to get every woman or every person to like you. I want to be really clear on that. When we're honest with people, yeah, some of them will go, I don't want that, or I don't want to be with you. And the thing that really helps is realizing that your mission is not to have every single person on the planet like you. That is an impossible fairy tale. Like, it's just not going to happen, Nathan. But your mission is to be you and find the people that like you, with your history, your story, and all of that. So you ask the question, like, do you recommend I tell women that I've had sex with 68 escorts? You can if you want to. If the conversation comes up, I definitely wouldn't lie about it. But at the same time, you don't have to tell people everything. Like, I think you probably know that on some core level. Like, here's an example. Let's say you went through, and I'm not saying this is you, Nathan, but let's just talk in general. Let's say someone went through some severe childhood trauma. Let's say you were like someone was sexually abused as a child. You don't have to, on date one, be like, hi, by the way, I was sexually abused as a child. Just like I, on date one, don't necessarily say, I don't say this. I don't say to the person, hey, by the way, I went to prison when I was 19. And I was depressed and suicidal. I tried to end my life a lot of times. I promised myself I would kill myself when I was 30. And yeah, I literally needed psychological help and antidepressants. Like, I don't say that at the start because it's not relevant. The person also hasn't built trust with me yet. I don't go around telling random strangers that I went to prison or that I was depressed and suicidal. I put it here on my YouTube channel because to some extent, I trust all of you. We've built a beautiful community. Most of you are pretty nice to me. Every now and then I'll get a comment that maybe is not so nice, and that's okay. Like, the person's just having a rough day or whatever, which it's always that. If someone's not kind, they're always just having a rough day. And so I trust all of you, but I don't say this stuff to the person on the first date. Now, if it came up, if they say, do you have any wild stories from your childhood of, like, I don't know, did you ever struggle with your mental health as a kid? I'd be like, yes, I did. I was depressed and suicidal from about 14 to like 20 something, roughly. I don't know, maybe a bit longer than that, something around there. And I went to prison when I was like 19. And I worked through all of that, had a lot of people that loved me and supported me. And yeah, that stuff's behind me, obviously. That's like 20 years ago. But yeah, I struggled. Have you ever struggled? And then we'll talk about it. That has happened once or twice. Mental health just comes up and we start talking about it. So I guess what I'm trying to say here, Nathan, is like, you can tell people whatever you want to tell them, and nothing bad happens. Like, yes, I know she called you an asshole, but that's okay. Like, that was just her dealing with something that she didn't know how to process. Like, that's what we do. When we don't understand something or when we're triggered by something, our first reaction is to sort of attack as like a defense mechanism. So I wouldn't take it personally. I promise you, you're not an asshole, man. You look at the intention. We talk about intention. Look at the intention behind what you were trying to do here, man. You were trying to be honest. Is that not beautiful? You were trying to be upfront with people so they knew who you are and what it's going to be like. Like, that's incredible. That's like literally the opposite of an asshole, man. Like, we can easily tell a story that that's you being a wonderfully kind, compassionate, upfront, honest human being. I commend you for that. It's just that you met someone who didn't really know how to handle that. Because if you said it the way that you've written it here, by the way, I can only ever get turned on by pornos and escorts, and so you're not going to make me hard. Yeah, a lot of people won't take that very well. They might get very frustrated by that. They might be like, you've wasted my time. Like, you're some weird porno freak. You're not. But they might take it that way, and fair enough, So, yeah, you're not an asshole. Or someone can tell a story that you're an asshole, but I personally wouldn't choose to tell that story. I think you've been very honest. I think you've been very upfront. There are just ways to say this in maybe a less clumsy way, and that's okay. That's how honesty goes. We're fucking awkward and clumsy at first, and a few people have a very strong reaction to that, and we go, oh my God, I fucked up. I must have fucked up so bad. And it's like, no, you just don't know how to be honest in a like compassionate, chill way yet. It's something that you practice. So yeah, your original question was basically, should I tell the woman that I date that I fucked 50 or 68 escorts? You can if you want to. Like, if it comes up, you can. But like me personally, I don't tell women how many women I've slept with unless they ask. And a few of them do, like a decent number of them do. And then I'll just straight up tell them. But I don't like preemptively say, by the way, I've slept with a lot of people. It's pretty implied by how confident I am with what I'm doing, by the fact that my girlfriend and I are in an open relationship, the wording and language that I use in my first couple of messages. I literally say, Amy and I are in an open relationship. We love to teach women, how to have BDSM. Like, I'm literally saying this is something that we already do. So it's pretty clear. And the one thing that I am upfront about, and I will say this before we go on a date, is I'll say, by the way, we are dating other people. Right now we're dating like one other person, and we've been dating her for a couple of years. Like, she knows, blah, blah, blah. She's happy with it, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're welcome to date as many people. Like, you can do whatever you want, just whatever makes you happy, as long as you're being upfront and, like, do whatever you want. It's your life. But yeah, just to be upfront, we're dating other people. Are you fine? Are you okay with that? Are you happy with that? So that is the one thing I'm very honest with. But yeah, I don't think you have to tell people their history. Your history. You kind of think of it like this, Nathan. Would you expect, or do you demand that a woman tells you how many people she slept with in the past? I'm guessing probably not. If it is something that is important to you, you can just ask. You can say, hey, how many people have you slept with, if you don't mind me asking? And here's how many people I've slept with. If that is something that's important to you, then just ask her it. And some people won't want to tell you, and then you don't have to date them or sleep with them. Some people will tell you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, I don't think you did anything wrong, man. I think you were just a little bit clumsy. And this is how these first couple of conversations go. So I guess to give you an actual answer to your question, you don't have to tell them that you slept with lots of escorts. Now, this bit here, let's talk about this a little bit. You say, I was honest with a woman, and I basically said, hey, this isn't going to work. That's essentially what you said. Hey, by the way, this is not going to work. I would phrase that a little bit, maybe kinder to the other person and kinder to yourself. Just say, look, I'll be honest. Sometimes I have some performance anxiety and my penis doesn't work, but I would love to do some other things with you. I'd love to go down on you, make you feel amazing. I'd love to try some kinky stuff with you and explore that side of things. Maybe we can explore some tantric sex. Maybe we can go really slow. You can tell me what's on your sexual bucket list and we can play around with that. I can buy some vibrators and I can edge you and make you feel amazing. Like, focus on the things that you can do. Like, if you look at, I'm assuming you said this stuff to her roughly how you've written it here. If you look at what you've said here, you've basically said, here's all the stuff that I can't do. Like, here's what won't work. Rather than focusing on that, man, I would focus on what you can do or what you want to do and what she wants to do. So focus on these solutions. I talk about this in the Play to Win video course. This is called like playing to win rather than playing not to lose. So every problem has a solution. In the bedroom, there's like a billion other things you can do that don't involve your penis. And focus on that stuff and say, look, like, be honest. Say, I have performance anxiety. Sometimes my dick doesn't work. But here's all the things that I want to focus on. Does that interest you? Do you want to do those things with me? So be upfront, be honest, but focus more on the things you want. In other words, rather than just presenting a problem and saying, this won't work, and then she's like, well, then why would I go to the bedroom with you? Like, what is the point? Like, if it won't work, why are we even here? And that might be why she said you're an asshole, because she might be, I don't know, I'm guessing that's the point. But in her brain, she might be like, well, this guy's wasting my time. Why the fuck did you take me on a date or whatever? Like, why the fuck are we here if I can't do anything with you? So tell her what you can do and then ask if she would like to do that stuff with you. But yeah, I promise this stuff's okay. And on top of that, I don't know your circumstances and you're very welcome to share them. Maybe not today, because I think we'll finish up soon. I really am losing my voice here a little bit. But you're very welcome to come like tomorrow or the next couple of days and share the erectile dysfunction stuff, and we can start working through that. I would like work on that. Like, I'm sure you can imagine sex is pretty fun. Yes, there are a lot of things you can do that don't involve your penis, but if we can work through the erection stuff and make that, you know, even just 5% better, like make your dick 5% harder, that's a nice place to start with. So you're welcome to share. Probably don't share it today because we'll finish up, but share it tomorrow, or you're welcome to hit me up for one of those $200 coaching calls, man, and like we can start helping with that. But yeah, I promise, Nathan, I absolutely promise, this is how a lot of honesty goes at the start. Like, we're just clumsy. I was clumsy, man. I can't tell you how many times I would open up to someone and they would be annoyed at me. The same as you. Like, I don't know if they necessarily called me an asshole, but they'd be annoyed. They'd be like, wow, you're really blunt. And they're saying that as a bad thing. So I had a lot of that stuff, man, because I didn't know how to balance honesty with compassion or honesty with trying to be kind. You know, and I try my best to be honest and kind. I think you've seen that I've maybe stumbled a little bit today, but I've tried my best today. I think I did a pretty decent job today. I try and balance honesty and like bluntness with kindness and understanding where the other person's at and empathy and all of that. But you'll make some mistakes, man. I make some mistakes. You probably watched me make some mistakes today, didn't you? We all watched me make some, quote, mistakes, but they're learning lessons. And so a quote that I really like that I try and live my life by is by Mother Teresa, actually. And she says, I would rather you make mistakes in kindness than work miracles in unkindness. In other words, if you have a positive intention, or you're genuinely just trying to be upfront and honest with people because you want to be, because you think that's nice to them and it's nice to you, then yeah, some of them might call you an asshole. I got called, not that, but we saw how today sort of went a little bit earlier. You might be trying your absolute best, man. You might be literally showing up to try and help people like I am today. You might be genuinely showing up like you have to try and be as honest and kind as you possibly can be, which I can see what you're trying to do, man. You're trying to be so upfront and honest. You're literally trying to say, I don't want to fucking play games anymore. I'm sick of this shit. Can I just tell the truth and maybe some of them will like me and some of them won't? You found the one who doesn't like it because you're a little bit clumsy with how you said it, and that's okay. And this is part of the process, man. Like, again, honesty, I want to be very clear about this. Honesty is not some tactic that just gets everyone to love you. You've all watched many times, you've all probably read the comments, many times I would do a video or do a live stream or do something where I'm trying really hard to be compassionate, to help people, and then the person will leave a negative comment and they'll be like, you're an asshole, Andy, fuck you, like, I hope you die, your girlfriend's ugly, fuck you. And I was trying so hard to have that positive intention. And so no matter how hard you try, man, to be honest and kind of compassionate, some people will fucking hate you, but do it anyway. That's almost another Mother Teresa quote. She basically said, like, some people will hate you when you try and be kind, but be kind anyway. You will build things and then people will want to come along and tear it all down, like, or tear you down. Build it anyway. Sometimes you'll stand there and watch everything that you've done just fall to the ground. Great. Pick up the pieces and start again. So that's sort of a mishmash of a couple of Mother Teresa quotes there, but I promise you're doing a good job, Nathan. Like, this is what this looks like, man. And if you want to, keep coming to these live streams, dude, and like share some of this stuff with us. Like, when we share our struggles, other people can be there for us. They can help us. A problem shared is a problem halved. And so good job sharing this, man. It took a bunch of balls for you to admit this on the internet. This is beautiful stuff, man. Really good stuff. All right, Phoenix says, I do have an in-person meetup on Sunday. Amazing. Obvious Throwaway says, good shit, brother. Dr. Chad says, good stuff. Well done. Yeah, really good stuff, man. Yeah. Really good stuff, dude. Really, really, really beautiful. Phoenix, you say, I'm kind of paranoid about digital footprint. Yeah, I went through the same thing, man. For a long period of time, I was like really paranoid about companies having my data and how much of a footprint I was putting on the internet and all of that. And like, so I get those fears, man. Like, believe me, I do. I really get those fears. But at some point, I don't know, I just let all that go. And you don't have to, you can do whatever you want. But at some point I was just like, yeah, fucking maybe Mark Zuckerberg is watching me through my webcam, watching me fucking J.O. Okay, have a good peep, Mark Zuckerberg. Like, I hope it looks good for you, brother. Like, I just at some point was like, yep, I just assume everyone has everything I've ever done or thought or, you know, fine, great. You can demonize me for that. You can hate me for that. And part of how I've worked through that has been to just put it out in front. That's why I talked about like, hey, I went to prison. part of that was to inspire a lot of people and say, hey, your life doesn't have to be over just because you did something in the past that you're not proud of, or you hurt someone or whatever. You can work through it and work on that positive karma. But yeah, I don't think I have much more to say than that. Mortis. Hello, Mortis. Hey, Andy, I thought about what you said yesterday about actually not being content. So yeah, for full context, yesterday you were like, I don't care about something. I'm super happy and peaceful. And I gently said to you, is that true though? Like, like maybe you're 50% peaceful and 50% content, but there might be more we can do on that. And the reason that I said that is because you were talking about something that you supposedly didn't care about and talking about it quite a bit. So sometimes when we find ourselves talking about something quite a lot, we're like, I don't even care about this. I don't even care at all. It's like, maybe you don't care 50%, but you do care like a little bit. So adding a little bit more nuance there. And the reason that we point that out is because then that can be beautiful work that we can do. We can go in there and say, okay, maybe I can be even more peaceful than this. Like that's an opportunity. I could be even more peaceful and even more content than I am right now. Holy shit, that's exciting. So yeah, you took that pretty well, by the way, that conversation. So go on to say, it's true that, yeah, I don't suffer nearly as much, but the hopelessness of love really brings me still down in the back of my head. So I have to figure out how to cope with it, how it can be replaced, etc. So, brother, a book that really helps, I mention this book all the time, it's one of my favorite books, is I Need Your Love, Is That True? By Byron Katie. That book, like, super duper 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 helps. I'll put it here on the screen. But it's literally a book on, like, how can I give myself the things that I'm wanting from other people? If I'm wanting, like, love and relationships and validation and all of that, how can I start giving that to myself? And then that makes you very attractive to the opposite sex or whoever you're interested in. Like working on your own self-love and compassion and kindness really is attractive to other people and magnetic. So I would start with that, my brother, and then realize that what you're talking about is just a process, dude. Like, as I said yesterday, you probably are pretty freaking content. Like, I agree with you on that statement. You're probably really content. And all that we're doing is working on you being even more content and even more happy and even more peaceful. And as for like, I feel a bit sad when I think about not being in a relationship and the hopelessness of love. Part of this is reading books like I Need Your Love, Is That True? Part of this is books like You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. And then, brother, part of this, like for you, your journey might be, what if I go out there and start taking a little bits of leaps of faith of relationship stuff? Like, what if I start talking to some women? I'm assuming you're into women. What if I start talking to some women? What if I start putting myself out there? You can take baby steps with that. I did. Like when Emmy and I got together, I said, this is only going to be casual. I am convinced that love is hopeless. Like Mortis, what you're writing here, brother, was me. I was so convinced that love never works. Love is a sham. Relationships always end. Like I was just convinced that you don't understand how convinced I was of that. And so was Emmy. Oh my God. We were two people who were like, love doesn't work. Relationships fail. We don't want to go anywhere near that. We both made ourselves a promise in the early days that we would never get into a relationship. And I said, I might one day, but at least not for the next 5 or 10 years. Like I need to do a lot of work. And Emmy, cute little 18-year-old Emmy was like, I'm never getting into a relationship ever. And I was like, okay, are you happy to just date casual? And she was like, yep. And I was like, cool, that suits me. It was at the point where for the first couple of like weeks of our relation, like casual, we were just dating each other casual. Anytime I would like hold her hand, she would hold my hand for a little while, and then she'd realize that she'd been holding my hand. Sometimes she'd even grab my hand when we were walking in public. She'd hold my hand, and then she'd look down and realize what she was doing, and she'd like yank her hand away and go, oh, no, I'm not allowed to do that. I shouldn't be holding hands. That's love. Love is bad, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you're adorable. We can hold hands if we want to. It doesn't have to mean it's serious, but if you don't want to hold hands, we don't have to. Like, she was really against relationships. So was I. But that was us sort of taking a chance, man. And so I guess what I'm saying here is, it's okay if you feel scared of love. A lot of people do, brother. Like, that's very common, very common. But there are ways to start taking baby steps with this stuff. Maybe if you want to, you could do a bit of casual dating, and that might help. Maybe you can just start working on your own self-love as well at the same time. But yeah, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, I guess is what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be like, I jump headfirst into love and I get my heart broken, or I'm lonely and I never talk to anyone ever again. No, those are two extremes. You can do a little bit in the middle. You can do some casual dating. I can't tell you how many women I've dated casually because they were like, I'm scared of love. And they would just like actively fucking say that. Maybe not immediately, but like after we've slept with them a couple of times, they'd be like, yeah, I'm scared of love. Relationships terrify me. And then I would just gently almost like coach them, I guess. And we would talk through it over the next couple of weeks or months or year or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, what is it about it that scares you? And they would open up and I'd be like, fair enough. Like Emmy and I, this might sound funny, but Emmy and I, we didn't even hold hands for the first couple of weeks because she was so terrified of that. We made a promise that we would never get into a relationship. And the girl would be like, but you guys have been together for like 6 or 7 years. And we'd be like, I know, that's funny, right? But yeah, you can take baby steps with this stuff. You opening up and telling us about this right now, about your fears of love, that's the baby steps. So same thing to you, Mortis. You opening up to all of us about your fears around love. Brother, this is you starting to work through it. Look how brave you're being. Like, you're being incredible, man. Like, you're doing an amazing job, man. Like, you really are. Really good job. You're amazing. Expert cheek clapper. Hey, look, it's Andy Claus spreading some Christmas cheer. Trying to, my brother. And all of you are spreading cheer too. I'll tell you what, let's take a little pause for half a second. You are all so fucking brave. And it's a really beautiful position for me to be in, where I get to see all of you, because I have a bird's eye view of all of you. Like, I don't know your lives. I'm not in there. I know some of you that have come to coaching and stuff. I get to know you pretty well. But I have a bird's eye view of all of you. And so many of you are so caught up in your own suffering or your own problems or your own struggles or your own mental health or your own sadness or getting triggered or pissed, like everything that you're going through. You're so caught up in it. And it can be a struggle to give yourself credit for what you're doing and to see the little victories as part of building up to your goals. And you think each little victory doesn't count because it's a bit pathetic, it's small. But I can see it all. Again, I'm in this beautiful bird's eye position where I can see all of you. I can see how much you are struggling. I can see how much, some people today have been a bit, upset and had their own struggles and all of that, to phrase it like that. I can see all of you trying your absolute fucking best. I really can. And you are all so unbelievably brave, and none of you are perfect. Neither am I. But I can see how much you're all trying, and you are all doing a fucking incredible job. You might not realize that. You might not always believe that. But holy shit, you are all incredibly goddamn brave. I cannot believe how much you all show up and share the things that you've probably never told anyone else, like erectile dysfunction or being triggered and pissed off or disagreeing with what I have to say. Those are brave things to admit to. Saying that you don't like the words that I'm saying, like Kimberly, that's really fucking brave. Those of you who share your deep struggles, that's really fucking brave. Opening up about the stuff that's pissing you off that you don't know how to deal with, and you're like, I'm just angry, okay? I'm fucking angry. That's really brave. Saying that you have these deep fears of like, what if I never find love, like you, Mortis? What if I can never find love? What if I'm always hopeless? What if I always feel disappointed? What if I can never move past this? What if I die full of regrets? That shit is very brave to open up about. So you are all doing an insanely good job. And I feel just tickled pink that I get to sit here and you all open up about all of this stuff. Like, this is not a job. I say this to all of my coaching clients. I do a lot of work. Like, I definitely do a lot. But this doesn't feel like a job. This feels like this feels like sitting around a campfire with all of you opening up about stuff that you might not have really opened up to anyone else about. And I feel honored, and it's a privilege. And I genuinely feel blessed and very grateful that you all share stories over the proverbial campfire with me. It really, really, really means a lot. And I really, really, really appreciate how brave all of you are. And that for the most part, like 99.9% of the time, you all take what I'm saying in good faith. You all understand that I'm here to help you. Most of you listen to the advice that I give and then go out and take action. That's incredibly beautiful. That makes what I'm doing a lot easier. If I can say stuff to you guys and girls and you take it pretty well, you take it in good faith, knowing that I'm here to help you. I'm not trying to just piss you off or something. And then a lot of you go out and actually take action. That's incredible. Like, you make this a lot easier for me by being so brave. So I know you're not necessarily doing that for me, but you're doing that for you. But thank you. Like, a lot of you could just listen to everything I say and be like, yeah, sure, he's right or whatever. Or you could sit there and argue and debate and be like, I disagree with this. That's wrong. That's wrong. But most of you, 99% of the time, go out and take action. And that makes this an absolute fucking joy. Like, this is really fun. I never really feel like we get caught up in debates or discussions or any of that. And even when we do, like today, it's like fucking 10 minutes. And that was on me. I could have just ignored that. I got triggered just as much as anybody else did. And so we're all working on that. But for the most part, 99.9% of the time, you guys and girls make this fucking incredibly easy on me. So thank you for that. I really, 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 really appreciate that. I can see people getting caught up in a discussion about the news, and maybe I'll just point this out because I like this. This is by John McAfee. Are you the John McAfee that made McAfee software and then went and lived in the jungle and then built a Twitter promoting like cryptocurrencies and then was killed in mysterious circumstances, I believe? Are you that John McAfee? If so, my God, you lived an interesting life. Plus, he was in prison for a couple of years in like some jungle prison or something, or in like some like strange country that I don't know why he was there. And he had some lady too, like some woman from that country that he was in a relationship with. Yeah, if none of you know the story of John McAfee, the guy that made McAfee antivirus, his backstory is fucking wild. And then he posted on Twitter and he's like, fuck you, American government. I've never paid taxes in my life. Come audit me. And I think they did or something. Wild guy. Absolutely crazy story. Really interesting. Anyway, John McAfee says, the world around us, or you, us, I'll just say us, the world around us is actually not the news or the lady arrested for threats that we never met. The world around us is our emotions, our actions, our money, our career, our relationships. Yeah, that's just a general point. And again, this is something that took me a long time to get. Like, Mr. McAfee, first of all, thank you for the antivirus that you made. Great contribution to society. Really appreciate that. Yeah. This took me a long time to start watching the news, so I completely fucking get people going, I can't. I have to keep watching the news or I'll miss out. Like, the news is literally keeping me well informed. It is keeping you informed about the stuff that the news wants you to be upset about. I did a video a while ago called I think I just called it Stop Watching the News. And I wouldn't put that title now. I wouldn't tell any of you what to do, but this was a couple of years ago. And it was like, stop watching the fucking news. And I said, you can play this little experiment. After I watch the news, do I feel more or less empowered to go and have a positive impact on my own life and the lives of other people around me? And then compare that with something that's maybe motivational. Like, I don't know, watch like some David Goggins or something. Watch Jocko Willink. Listen to an audio book of like, You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. Or listen to Nick Vujicic, my favorite guy, the guy who was born without arms and legs. Listen to him. Or listen to some Byron Katie or a little bit of David Hawkins. Like, any of these people. Listen to like the motivational speakers and then ask yourself, do I feel more empowered to go and achieve my goals and have a positive impact on the rest of the world? And if we're honest with ourselves and if we actually pay attention, and it's going to be difficult because it can be fucking hard to like switch off the news for half a second. But if we're honest, if we have like 2 days without the news where we focus only on positive shit, and then compare that to like 2 days with the news where all we watch is the news, like turn the news on, just watch it nonstop for like 16 hours a day, and compare which one makes you want to go out there and achieve your goals and have a positive impact on other people. And if we're honest, and this can be hard to get to, we will answer every time, yeah, the positive stuff makes me feel a little better. It can be hard for that stuff to resonate because we're so addicted to the news. Like, the news is an addiction. Political stuff is an addiction. We can be so addicted to that it's like a fucking drug addiction. And you can test this out, you know, some of you, for yourself by saying, can I go a month without the news? And if your brain is like, no, it's like, and then your brain will go, yeah, but I need it. It keeps me informed. That's what I said when I was an alcoholic. I was like, I need it. It helps take that edge off. It helps me work harder. I literally work better with alcohol. I'm more social. I'm more fun. And these are things that we say sometimes when we're stuck in something. If something was really adding to our lives, there wouldn't be that much of a fight. And so, yeah, anyway, separate discussion. But John McAfee, I appreciate that conversation. But you, John, probably know as much as anyone else that we can get very caught up in like wanting to tune in. But at the end of the day, the news is wanting us to tune into stuff that disempowers us. Like, here's another question you can play around with, all of you, if you want to. After you watch the news, do you feel more hopeful or less hopeful? And which do you think is a better state of mind to go and have a positive impact on yourself and others? Like, a lot of the time, Byron Katie talks about this a lot. We think that we have a positive impact on the world. We think that we will really make changes out of a place of fear, anger, frustration, pain, being pissed off, and all of that. But anyone who has been in a very peaceful place, like, will tell you you are 10,000 times more effective when you're happy, when you're full of joy, when you're empowered, when you don't feel hopeless. But again, that's really hard to get to when you're like trying to transcend that. And a lot of the time we see peace as apathy. We go, but if I'm peaceful, that means I won't care. And it's like, no, you'll care just as much. You just won't be so emotional. And without the emotion and the hysteria of like the news, which the news just wants us to be hysterical and angry and like not to think, because that gets clicks, that gets views. You know, it's not nefarious. It's just a smart business plan for them. But when we're hysterical and emotional and angry and pissed off, yeah, we don't go out there and change the world. We think we are, but we're not, like John McAfee's sort of saying. Yeah, and we do think, John, what you've said here is what a lot of people think when we watch the news. I used to do this, dude. I would tune into the news and I would literally think, yeah, I'm going to end the world's suffering if I watch the news every day. Like literally, John, your statement was literally what was in my head. I would have literally said it out loud. I would have literally said the statement if you had asked me, John, I need to tune into the news and see how much the world is suffering. I need to be up to date on political stuff. I need to see how many people are being fucked over by the government, fucked over by natural disasters. I need to pay attention to the Ukraine-Russia war. Everyone doesn't give a fuck about that anymore, which shows you that it is just emotionality and like whatever the topical point is. Like people don't really care about what's on the news. You think you do, but then you just move on to the next news thing. If you really cared, you'd be like, all right, I'm going to Ukraine to like feed people who are struggling. You'd do what Mother Teresa did. You would go somewhere and actually boots on the ground, make a change. But yeah, I did the same thing, John. Like if you'd asked me this question, brother, I would have said, yes, John, you fucking dumbass. If I don't tune in, and I'm not calling you a dumbass, but I would have called you a dumbass like 4 or 5 years ago when I was tuning into the news. I would have literally said, John, you fucking dumbass. If I don't tune into the news, how will I know who's suffering? And then you might ask the very wise question of like, but how does that affect someone in Ukraine? And I'd be like, John, I changed my Facebook profile picture, you fucking asshole. I changed it to a flag. And again, John, I'm not calling you an asshole. I'm kind of having some fun with this, brother. I changed my profile picture to a flag of Ukraine. And John, did you not see on my profile where I said the words, I stand with Ukraine? John, I lectured a bunch of people in an elevator about how bad Russia is. And one of them told me he was Russian. And I said, fuck you, Russian dirty fucking cunt. That's me spreading positivity, John. I was helping the world, John. I was ending suffering. John, I literally would have said that because that was literally what I was doing. I would get caught up in the hot button issues. And I would, as you sort of wisely went on to say, I would make myself suffer and then I would spread my suffering around. And I would literally just bitch to people in elevators about the government sucks. This is awful. I fucking hate this. And I would bring the mood down. And I thought I was helping, but I was actually just spreading negativity. Literally what you say, brother. I literally thought I was informing people. I even used that word. I was like, but I'm informing people, John. If I don't tell them about how much the world sucks, then how will they know? It's like, they probably already fucking know, brother. They're probably just busy trying to do the best they can. And if I really gave a shit, I would have gone to Ukraine and put boots on the ground, or I would have donated like fucking 50% of my profits or my whatever to, like, I would do something to actually help. But tuning into the news is not action. Like, here's another thing to think. Does the news ever say, ever, here's what you can do to help? Sometimes they do. Like, let's be fair. When there's like a hurricane or something in America, yes. But 99% of news stories are just like, here's this shit thing, or this thing that we say is shit. Here's this other thing we say is shit. Here's this other thing we say is shit. Here's someone that was stabbed. Yep, fuck them, I guess. Their family has to suffer now. Who gives a shit? Let's put that on the fucking news. Hey, here's some pedophile. Fuck that guy. Hey, here's some war. Wow, what a bunch of dicks Russia are. Hey, fucking cunts. Hey, here's some other war. Bunch of pricks. Like, that's it. There's no like, and hey, we've all rallied around and this person who got stabbed, here's a Kickstarter, or I guess you would use GoFundMe. Here's a GoFundMe to look after their family. No. If you want that stuff, go on YouTube. YouTube and lots of these sort of like a little bit more grassroots stuff, they do stuff like that. Like Reddit can sometimes, you know, funnily enough, be a very positive place of like, all right, let's do this Kickstarter. Let's do this like GoFundMe. This person's suffering. What can we do for them? But the news, sometimes local news will do that. Like local news can be pretty decent. I grew up in a small town and the local news was actually pretty solid. So was the local newspaper and so were the local government. They were actually pretty decent because it was a small town. There were people you knew. But as government starts to build and as like news starts to go national or international, it just gets a bit too big and it becomes a bit maybe not too big is the right word, but it gets to a point where it no longer cares about the small stuff. So yeah, anyway, this is a big fucking discussion. John, you're leading the way. These are like cool things that you're saying. Oh, John, wow. Okay, so let's be like, maybe I'll step in and say, everyone, I can see a few of you in the comments are getting a little bit heated about this, but fair enough. Does that not just point out the point that we're making? But as John said, like when we watch the news, we feel really hopeless, and then we feel like the problems are bigger than us, and we're like, how can I help the Ukraine war? I can put my shitty Facebook profile picture up, but that doesn't move the needle at all. I'm not going to go to Ukraine because like I don't want to go to a war zone. Fair enough, neither do I. I'm not going to be Mother Teresa because that took incredible courage. That's insane. That's not something that I think I would do. But then we start feeling a bit hopeless because the news wants us to feel hopeless, because then we'll keep tuning in. Like, understand that the news sells you this problem and then offers the solution. Sorry, the news gives you the problem and then sells you the solution, offers you the solution. The news literally says the world is fucked and you need to keep tuning in. Otherwise you'll miss stuff. And then something bad could happen and you wouldn't know about it. Like, I stopped watching the news probably like 4 years ago. I haven't missed anything. Like, nothing. If there's some big thing that I need to know about, people will tell me, and then I'm informed. And most of the time when people tell me shit, they're like, there's a war in Ukraine. And I'm like, oh, my heart goes out to them. All my love goes out to them. Cool. Now I move on with my life. I don't need to sit there tuning into that. If I really cared and I wanted to be compassionate, I could. But I wouldn't be tuning into the news on the TV. I would be Googling like local journalists that are going there and caring, or YouTubers that are going there and caring, like boots on ground journalists that really care and want to help people that are getting in there and doing stuff. I would support them. I'd give them some money. Anyway, separate discussion. But yeah, we do often get really caught up in apathy because the news wants us to feel like that. And then it can be harder to volunteer and actually go and do something to make a world a better place, something in my own life. And I am not the pinnacle of like making the world a better place. Let's make that really clear. But since I stopped watching the news, that's why I built this YouTube channel. That's why I sit here day in, day out. And I want to. I really enjoy this. Day in, day out, just trying to help you guys and girls. Like, literally, that is my only intention when I come here, is how can I make their life a little better if they want me to? If they don't want to, fine. And how can I give them a little bit of love? Like, how can I love my audience? And I'm not perfect with that. And how can I help them? And I'm not perfect with that. But that's all I do. That's why I wake up every day saying, how can I give the world a bit more love? That is literally my mission. Is how can I love people today? How can I give them some love? That was like Mother Teresa's mission, was like, how can I just give dignity and love to those people who aren't getting any? And so when that is my focus, I'm not thinking about the news because that just makes me feel shit. And when I feel shit, I'm not motivated to go out and talk to people because people are scary. The news wants me to believe that people are scary, that homeless people are dangerous, that the world is fucked and the problems are too big for me and I have no impact on them, and politics doesn't matter anyway because even if I vote, the person that I didn't want will just get in anyway. So like, what the fuck? Like, I feel less emboldened to take action when I watch the news. But when I turn it off, I can just do boots on ground, like with all of you, and just be like, all right, what do you guys need from me? What do you guys and girls need from me? What are you struggling with? I'm here. I love you. Let's go. And I can make a change one person at a time. But the news makes problems so big and doesn't allow you access to helping one person at a time. And so it's really hard to actually make a difference. Like, if you ask, here's the best quote that I have from Mother Teresa of all people, like the person that you would want this information from. They asked her when she won the Nobel Peace Prize, how can we be more like you? And she said, go home and love your family. That's it. Just do that. Like, go home and love one person or the people in your house. And if you don't have a family, love your next door neighbor. Go meet your next door neighbor and just be nice to them. And she would also say, just go around smiling at people. We never know all the good that can come from a simple smile. Just smile at people, like smiling at strangers. If you all go outside, you don't have to do this, but if you want to help, if you tune into the news because you think that it helps make you a more effective member of society, like your intention is beautiful. You're watching the news because you want to help people. Beautiful, incredible, fucking amazing. If that is your intention, you would do more good going around and smiling at 5 people a day than watching the news, like literally. And you can do both, sure, fine. Do both if you want to. But like, smiling at people would be infinitely more effective because you just made 5 people feel nice. And some of those people may be having a really bad day. Some of those people every now and then might have been going home to end their life. They might have literally been so depressed, and you smile at them and maybe that's the change. It's small, tiny little things like that. But the news makes the problems very big because then you got to keep tuning in to be up to date and all of that. So yeah, it's funny how the news is. And to be clear, none of this is me saying that the news is evil or nefarious or any of that. They're just doing what makes them money, you know? Like, as John sort of said, you know, he goes on to say, yeah, the news is sort of just consumption. And we're far more effective when we say, okay, I've consumed enough. You know, I've done videos on this where I'm like, you don't need to just keep watching more of my content. And my content is positive. You definitely don't need to watch more news, but you don't even need to watch more of my content. Just go and start taking some tiny little baby steps and some tiny actions. And you'll find at some point, you're like, I don't need the news. I don't need to be up to date. At some point, you probably realize I don't even need Andy's channel or anyone else. I'm just going to go out there and be nice to people. I'll go out there and spread some love. I'll go out there and spread some positivity. That's far more effective. But yeah. All right. Mortis says, hey, this is interesting. Yeah, I think I remember this, Mortis. So you're saying, I've written angry letters to you and also like Mark Manson. I think, yeah, I believe I remember this. I think you even wrote me an angry email about Mark Manson. I think I remember. It feels bad, but I kind of get my viewpoint back then. Yeah, and look, okay, man, something that can really help you is to practice a little bit of self-forgiveness and compassion towards your past self. Like, I went to fucking prison because I hurt someone, dude. Like, if I can forgive my past self, you sure as hell can too. You were trying to do the best you could at the time. You were probably feeling a lot of really strong emotions. You were probably really upset and going through some stuff, and fair enough. And you lashed out because that's what human beings do when they're going through stuff, man. Like, you know, like we lash out. Look in the comments right now. I'm probably not going to read a bunch out because, you know, you guys are having your own little battle in there, but there's a couple people in the comments right now, like battling each other. Like, that's what we do when we're grumpy, man. We lash out. We say sarcastic things. We're passive aggressive. We just yell at it. Like, that's what we do, man. And that isn't to say that's who you want to be in the future. I know that. That's why you feel bad. But you can look at that guilt or that shame or that feeling of feeling bad, and you can say, this is a beautiful thing. Man, I think it's beautiful that you feel bad. It's that little voice in your head saying, hey, Mortis, you know you're capable of more than this, brother. Like, you wouldn't feel bad if you didn't think you were capable of being kinder and compassionate, or if you weren't that now. And again, when I look back on my past self, I used to cringe. I don't anymore. I just see past me as like doing the best he could and struggling and all of that. But yeah, man, I felt bad for a long time. I felt a lot of guilt. Think about how much guilt you feel when you go to fucking prison. I felt a lot of guilt, dude. I get it. I will be very honest with you. I can vaguely remember the email you wrote. I'm pretty sure you just like said Mark Manson is a fraud. You like mostly shut on Mark Manson, I think, in that email, if I remember. I think it was a while ago. But I'll be very honest, when I get emails like that, and I do get them, I get comments, I get people disagreeing with me. We've had, you know, some people disagree with me on the stream today. Usually all I'm thinking is like, okay, what is this person going through? And is there anything I can do to help? And most of the time the answer is like, no. My attempts to help just make it worse, as you saw today, I guess, on the stream. But my intention is to try and help. And so I don't think I replied to you. I don't think I would have, because I think it was like a really angry letter. And when someone's really angry, I'm just like, all right, the kindest thing I could do is to just not say anything. Like, kind for them. I'm thinking of what's kind for you. And so I promise I didn't take your letter or your email personally at all. I was just like, yeah, this guy's clearly going through some stuff. Like, happy people don't lash out or argue or get frustrated or pissed off. They just don't. And so anytime I see someone being like very angry or very like argumentative or something like that, I know they're going through something, especially if they lash out in an angry email. I know they're going through something. Otherwise, you don't do that. There's a quote from Carl Jung, famous psychologist, who said, wait, was it Carl Jung? Probably Carl Jung, who said, happy people, something like happy people don't attack others. Generally, it is the tortured who become the torturers. And so anytime I see someone write a comment that says like, go kill yourself, Andy, which I get some of them sometimes, or your girlfriend's an ugly fucking bitch and I hope you break up. I've had some of them. Or Cam's a stupid piece of shit. We get some of them. Like, anytime I see them, I know the person's going through something. I don't take it personally. At first I did, I'll be very honest, not with your email. I'd gotten enough by that point. But when I first started getting comments, yeah, it fucking wrecked me, brother. My God, dude. Like, my first couple of negative comments, Cam will tell you this because Cam was there with me. Cam talked me through a lot of it and helped me a lot. I'm so grateful for Cam. And Emmy did too, and my friend Jimmy, a bunch of my friends, and even my mother. Yeah, the first couple of comments I got, like the first time someone told me to kill myself, bro, I sat with that for a fucking week, dude. That messed with my head real good. But ultimately, I'm really grateful for those comments. That might sound like a wild thing to say, but that helped me realize that's how I got to the point of realizing, oh, people who lash out or who are angry or who debate like in an angry way are just frustrated. They're feeling some strong emotions. Maybe they're pissed off about their life. Maybe they're pissed off at something else. There's a really good quote from something called A Course in Miracles, which is like a 365-day project I'm doing right now. And that one of the days you meditate on this exercise, and the exercise is, I am never upset for the reason that I think I am. And as I've sat with that over the last like 3 months, that thought has come into my head so many times when I'm frustrated with something or annoyed at someone or thinking like this person's wrong or bad. That voice in my head will just go, I am never upset for the reason I think I am. And then I'll go, okay, what am I actually upset about? And there's always something else every other time. Like, again, it is the tortured who become the torturers. And if you're really happy in yourself, stuff is just like water off a duck's back. Or you might get slightly annoyed by it. You watched me get mildly 10% annoyed today, but you quickly move on. You're like annoyed for like half a millionth of a second. And even then you try and extend olive branch, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. So yeah, I promise nothing that you have to keep hold of there, brother. If you want to, okay, I'll tell you what. There's a TV show called My Name is Earl, which I highly recommend. It's about a guy who feels like he wronged a lot of people and did a lot of bad things. And the whole point of the TV show is he writes down all the people that he hurt or lied to or cheated or whatever, and he makes amends for each person. You don't need to do this for me, but if it would make you feel better, you can do something nice for me. Or I would probably rather you just go and do something nice for someone else and then do that like on behalf of me. Like I would like to donate my kind deed that you're going to do for me. I'd like to donate that to someone else. Like anyone. Go up to some homeless person and be like, bro, can I give you a hug? I'm telling most homeless people would say yes, by the way. At least where I live, most of them say yes. Go hug a homeless person. Ask first. Or fucking, I don't know, go compliment 2 people or something. Be like, hey, I love your shirt. That's a cool shirt. Like do something positive. And the reason that I'm saying that is not because I want you to feel guilty, but exactly the opposite. It can help you to let go of guilt, to start doing positive things, to realize, oh shit, okay, I have a positive impact on the world. I don't have to feel bad about stuff I did in the past. Yes, I learn from it. I improve. I try my best to never do it again. And I try and move towards the person that I want to be. But I don't have to hang on to it and feel bad. Like, Mortis, the kindest thing that you could ever do for me, and I'll say this from a selfish point of view, is let go of that guilt. If you do nothing else to make amends, and I don't think you did anything wrong, dude, you were just like emailing me and you were angry. Lots of people do that. But if you really want to make amends, start working through the guilt. That would be a kindness to me. I want to see you happy if that's what you want to be. And that would be the kindest thing you could do for me to, quote, make it up to me. But you don't owe me that. You don't have to make it up to me. But yeah. Mortis, you're going to say, I used to care 90% of the day, now it's 30 or 40. And you can flip that around, brother, and say, I used to be 10% peaceful, and now I'm 60 to 70% peaceful. So focus on the thing that you want, or the thing that you care about, which is peace and happiness and contentment and those things, like motivation to achieve your goals, like energy. All of that's probably what you care about. So reframe that in terms of that. In which case, that's a huge victory, brother. You went from 10% like peaceful and content to 60 to 70%. Bro, like that's incredible. And now all you're doing is working on just being a bit more like that. All right, this feels like a very out of left field comment, but I appreciate you making it. King Cold, hey guys, hope all is well. Just wanted to say I really love older women. Shout outs to older ladies. Obvious throwaway, being a giant gamer nerd, uses the phrase pog, which I love. Older women, very pog. Best lay was 3 times my age, 0 regrets. Okay, are you one of my old clients? Because there's an older client, or there's a client in who came through my coaching program. And if you are, then I know exactly who you are. Who, yeah, dated a few women, I think in their 60s or 70s or something. And they were so unbelievably nice to him, and he was really nice to them. And I think he's still dating one of them. Is that you? Are you that guy? If so, that's amazing. King Cold says, I will lose my virginity to a woman 2 times my age. So there was a guy in my coaching group that I did an interview with. His name is Theo. You can just search for Theo on my channel. And he lost his virginity with an older woman who basically did all the moves and took the lead. He was honest with her and said, hey, by the way, I have 0 experience. And she was basically like, Leave it to me. And it was an amazing experience. She was like amazing. It went like 10,000 times better than he ever could have imagined because she just knew what to do and she talked him through it. And she had a lot of fun, it sounds like. I think they saw each other once or twice more and then went separate ways. But yeah, that's really cool. Mortis, you say putting yourself out there is not hard. Getting positive feedback is hard. Yeah, and you can, to make this easier, brother, you can break down your definition of positive feedback. So like, look for the smaller bits of positive feedback. Like here's one for you right now. Mortis, you were incredibly fucking brave by putting yourself out there. There you go. That's positive feedback. Hang on to what I just said. And everyone else in the chat will be telling you the same sort of shit over the next couple of weeks. They'll be like, bro, you're so brave. Hang on to those little ones and don't feel hopeless if you haven't got big, grand, massive feedback. Like some woman being like, Mortis, you're the most beautiful man in the world. I love you. I want to sleep with you forever and have your babies. Like, work your way up to that level of big feedback. But for now, just go looking for or acknowledge and notice the little bits of feedback. You'll be getting little bits of feedback. Like some woman will be like, thank you for hitting on me, but I have a boyfriend. That's positive feedback. She could have said, fuck you, don't hit on me. But she gave you a little bit of positive feedback. It's small. I get that it's really small. So you might have to get a magnifying glass and be like, where is this tiny little feedback that Andy's talking about? You will be getting positive feedback right now. It's just easy to miss it because it's small. Like, this is how it was for me at the start, dude. I was only looking for, or I was only getting tiny bits of feedback, like positive feedback. Like I would walk up to a girl and say, hi, you're really cute. I'm Andy. And she would say, thank you. And I'd be like, okay, that's positive feedback. She said, thank you. But your brain right now, like you, Mortis, and a lot of people, your brain might be saying, that doesn't count. That's not positive feedback. So you're going to have to go hunting for tiny positive feedback. And I promise you over time, the positive feedback will start to upgrade. And then at some point, as you work on yourself, as you improve your confidence, and as you just talk to more women or whatever your goal is, some woman will say to you, thanks, Mr. Mortis, you're really attractive too. And you'll be like, oh shit, that's really good feedback. She told me that I'm attractive. What the fuck? And then at some point, as you keep improving, as you keep talking to more people, some woman will say, Mortis, you're really sexy. And you'll be like, sexy? Me, little old me, what the hell? And so those compliments will upgrade over time as a consequence of you improving yourself, you putting yourself out there, talking about people, like working on this stuff. You'll eventually get to a point where the feedback will be very huge. Like people will, yeah, I don't know what you're going to do in the future, but like random example. As I coach people and as I've been doing this content for like 5 years, I regularly have people email and say like, Andy, you changed my life. Or Andy, I've had a few of these. I was literally going to kill myself and I made a promise that I'd do it on this date. And I read one of your articles called Don't Kill Yourself, or here's what to do if you feel completely hopeless and helpless. And I've decided I'm not going to kill myself. Like that's pretty fucking positive feedback. That like someone literally saying, I might not be here if you hadn't helped me. That's big feedback. But that was not the feedback I was getting at the start. Like my first couple of articles, someone would just be like, yep, good. And I was like, holy shit, that's tiny feedback. I would have like 2 people read one article. Like literally I was getting like 2 views per article. And I'd be like, wow, 2 people read it. That's tiny feedback. They didn't even say anything. They just read it. I can just see that 2 people visited the blog. Maybe one of them was Emmy and one of them was me, but whatever. So tiny feedback at the start. So yeah, don't be too good to acknowledge the tiny little feedback. Like don't be too, I guess what I'm saying is be humble enough to acknowledge the tiny fucking feedback that you get at the start. And then I promise over time that feedback will level up, brother. Like I promise. You guys are talking about older women that you were with. Interesting. This is like a cute conversation. All right, we might start finishing up soon. I'm just scrolling through to see if anyone... There you go, exactly what I just said before, Phoenix. Look, I literally said you start to get more positive feedback the more you start to do something. Look, Cola just said, hey man, I just want to say thanks for the help, man. Your channel's been helping me out more action-oriented. See? Like, but at the start when I first started, like my blog, which was the first thing I started, no one would ever write a comment like this. They would like no one, because I'd only just started. I hadn't earned or I hadn't built enough content. I wasn't good enough at it to help anyone. Like I probably didn't help anyone with the first couple of articles. I was getting good at it. Same with your self-improvement. You might not be good enough. It's not about being good enough, but like you might not have improved enough and be confident enough with practice to have any women say you're really sexy. So Yeah, it's just a process. Your compliments and your feedback will increase over time. Cola, I really appreciate this compliment, by the way, and really appreciate this gratitude, bro. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for sharing this. It feels nice when people share this stuff, and I'm glad that you've been focused on action. That's really cool. Obvious throwaway, so we were talking about John McAfee before. You say McAfee was the definition of not giving a shit about anything. Maybe too little shits given. Yeah, he was giving just the right amount of shits for his life, but like when you say this, like maybe he gave too little shits, I know exactly what you're saying, brother. Like, I cannot imagine living that. And I'm someone that's literally done a 3-part series saying, I don't follow all the rules that other people, like the social contracts and all of that. I don't just go along with the flow. Like, I ask myself, am I going to do this because it's good for me, or just because, am I going to do this because it's good for me and other people, or just because I think I should? Like, I'm someone who's literally gone in and autistically questioned basically every fucking rule that society lives by. And I'm not talking about laws. I follow laws because I don't want to go to jail. So I choose to do that. But like every like social contract and stuff, I question. And I still look at John McAfee and I'm like, I'm glad you made those choices. Me in my own life, I'm going to make slightly different choices. I'd phrase it like that. Yeah, John McAfee was definitely a wild boy. We can definitely tell the story that he was a wild boy. You say, show the how to uninstall McAfee ad. Maybe I won't show it, but people can look at it. I tell you what, I'm not going to show it now, but I'm going to like go and watch it. So how to uninstall McAfee. What, is there an ad involving him? Is he in it? I'll watch it after the stream. Oh my God. All right, I'll watch that after the stream. All right, let's keep scrolling down. Talking about the news. Andy, you are so belittling with so many of these words. I might be. You might be right. I might be belittling. Who knows? Cola says, isn't that just virtue signaling what you're talking about? I'm getting a little lost in here. It's like really hard to like read. Lots of arguments today, and that's okay. Like people like to argue, don't they? All right, any questions? Maybe tomorrow. I tell you what, if we come tomorrow, I'm going to do a better job of this. I think I've fair enough gotten caught up in the weeds as well, and I think we've kind of gone off topic. I want to be very clear. This channel is not really about politics, and definitely not about complaints about the news and stuff like that. And I went on a little bit of a rant along with like John McAfee about the news, but that was coming from a place of trying to help people, and maybe that helped you or not. But tomorrow I will put more effort in, and you guys and girls can do whatever you want, but I'm going to put more effort into like only answering questions. I think we're getting a lot off the weeds here, and like I think some of you in the chat are very upset. John, you definitely are. Kimberly, you definitely are. I think some of you are getting very angry and frustrated, and that's not what this channel is. Like at the end of the day, this is my channel, and this is a community, but this is my channel, and so it falls onto me to guide it in the right direction, or the direction that I want it to go in. And I definitely haven't done that today. I'll be very honest about that. Like that's not any of you. That's 100% me. I've gotten caught up in the weeds. I've indulged some of your arguments, and I've maybe taken some of the things that have been said in good faith. And sometimes when we're emotional, things are not in good faith. And so I think tomorrow, I guess this is just a declaration for myself more than any of you. I will put more effort into only answering questions, because the point of this channel is not to sit here and debate. And even when I talked about the news, all of that was to try and help all of you, or those of you who want to be helped. But I can see that some of you right now want to be angry. Kimberly and John, both of you want to be angry. Like you, if you're honest with yourself, you want to be angry right now. And that isn't this channel. I don't want you guys to be pissed off, or if you want to be pissed off, be pissed off. But I think I'm not going to focus on it tomorrow. So that's more a declaration for me. And I guess a general statement about the channel. The channel is not here for people to come and share their anger and all of that in a way where you're just trying to reinforce it. The channel is here for all of you to share your anger, share your frustration, share your pain, and then look for solutions. And I think if a couple of you are honest right now, Kimberly and John, I'll just call both of you out. You're both doing your best, but you both want to be angry right now. You want to be passive aggressive. You want to be pissed off at me, Kimberly, you more than John. And that just isn't this channel. Like, that isn't what we're here for. We're not here to add or reinforce more negativity. We're not here to reinforce more anger. I literally only do this so that I can help answer people's questions and help them live the life that they want to live. And if you want to live, at least in this moment right now, angrily, I fully respect everyone's right to do that. Like, do whatever I'm not your fucking dad. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I'm not really interested in reinforcing that. That just isn't my life. I've built a life of abundance and joy, and it doesn't really bring me joy. Trying to help someone, which Kimberly is what I've done this entire live stream. I have done nothing but try and help you. Again, it's that quote, I would rather make mistakes in kindness than work miracles in unkindness. My intention has been kindness. It hasn't been taken by you that way, and that's perfectly okay. Like, this isn't to call you out, to be very clear. But yeah, just drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is not my channel. This is not what brings me peace. I've indulged it for a while to try and help you and maybe to point out to other people. But I've just had enough comment conversations where someone's really pissed off at me over some words that I said or something. I get in there and in good faith try and help them. And then it just makes them more pissed off. And then I get in there and try and help them again. And it makes them even more pissed off. And then at some point, I just decided, I'm not interested in this. Like, this is just not the life that I live. I don't have any friends in my life that would ever be that pissed off at what I say. Or if they do, they would be pissed off and they'd say it to me. They'd be like, bro, what you just said pissed me off. Can we talk about it? Like, can we solve it? I don't have any relationships. I don't have any like family stuff where the person wants to be angry at me. And then when I try and help, continues to be. And that isn't to say people can't have emotions. Again, all of this is saying more of a reflection on me and what I would like to change. I am not telling any of you to change. I'll be very clear. None of this is me saying any of what any of you are doing is wrong or bad or anything like that. It's just I am declaring, I'm putting a line in the sand that I would like these live streams to be positive. I am doing these for free and I'm choosing to. That's not a burden. I very much enjoy these, but I am sick right now. I have chosen to come here, again, fully chosen. I'm not a victim, but I have chosen to be here for 2 hours to genuinely try and help people. And it is now at the point where some of the comments in the live stream and some of the debates and the arguments, especially towards me, Andy, this is wrong. You shouldn't say that. That's bad. This is pissing me off. If any of you are really that annoyed, you don't have to watch this. And if you continue to write those sort of comments, which you are more than welcome to, I'm never going to police this community, but I am going to hide them so I don't see them. I am here to help people, and getting caught up in debates and all of that. If I wanted that, I'd go watch the news. If I wanted that, I'd get involved in politics. If I wanted that, I'd go around with other people that are angry. But I've spent my life systematically building a network of positivity and happiness and joy and all of that because it feels nice. And so, yeah, all of this is more a reflection on me. I'll be very clear. I am saying this for me and for those of you who are asking questions, because I can see a lot of you asking questions and genuinely struggling with stuff and suffering, and you're genuinely wanting help. But we're at a point now where I am distracted from helping the people that genuinely are asking for help and suffering. And this is, funnily enough, what John McAfee in the comments said before. When we get caught up in the news or debates or stuff that's like lower down on the map of consciousness, like when we get stuck in arguments, we're literally distracted from helping people. It is now at the point where the discussions and the arguments and the emotions and the anger and all of that stuff that some of you are feeling in the comments or in the live stream is literally distracting people from getting helped. If you ever wanted a bit of evidence that focusing on the negative actually takes away from people being helped, there is literally someone in front of you talking to you right now, trying to help people that you are distracting from that mission. You are literally distracting people from being helped because of arguments and all of that. And that's okay. That is on me, the person who's trying to help people, to stop that from happening. It is 100% me, not any of you. But that is your evidence right there. If you ever were going to listen, that is the evidence that getting caught up in negativity literally stops people from being helped. It literally has the inverse effect of what you're hoping it will have. All right, TED Talk over. I appreciate all of you listening, and to all of you who are coming here with the intention to improve, with the intention to focus on positivity. And again, share your negativity as much as you want to. Just share it coming from an intention of like, I'm sharing this so that I can improve it. I'm sharing this so I can take action. I'm sharing this because I want to be a little bit happier. I'm sharing this because I'm struggling and I don't know that anyone cares about me and I don't know that anyone's listening. Share that shit. Tell me you're pissed off at me if you want to, and then say, I'm pissed off at you, but I would like to work through that. Can you help me? Then fuck yeah, man. Yell at me as much as you want to. If it's coming from a place of let's fix this, but if it's, or let's improve this, but if it's coming from a place of like, I'm just angry and I feel like lashing out, this is not the place where I'm going to let that happen. Like, that's just not what this is. I care too much about the people that are suffering. I care too much about the people that are currently feeling very sad. I can see a question there from you, Jack. You've asked a question. I'll answer it in a second. I can see a bunch of you really struggling, and I care too much about those people to let arguments and that get in the way. And again, you know, that's entirely on me. I have done that entirely on my own accord. I'm not perfect either at blocking out arguments and debates and frustrations, but yeah, this is not the place where I'm going to let that keep going. There is a mute button. I'm not threatening anyone, but I will probably use it at some point. So I want these streams to be solely here to coach people and share wins. I'm taking time out of my day, 2 hours every day, which I want to. This brings me a lot of joy. You're a lot of joy to hang out with, but it's not a lot of joy to watch people be upset and angry without wanting to improve it. All right, Mr. Jack. Where is the best place to look for a good self-improvement coach? I've had coaching in the past and it helped me so much. I can't afford it from you, unfortunately. I don't know how much he charges, but like, are you talking about like general self-improvement, or are you talking about like dating and sex and relationships? Like, maybe you're very welcome to type it in the chat now. Like, tell me what your goals are and I can maybe give you a better answer. If you just want general self-improvement help, maybe my coach, Keith, might be very good with that. He's very good with mindset. A lot of what I pass on to all of you comes from him. Like, he was the one who was like, you don't have to suffer to reach your goals. He was the one who set me down this pathway of happiness and peace and love and joy and all of that. And so I can put you in touch with him. I think his is like 100 and something Australian dollars an hour. So that would be like $80 or $90 a session. You can pay for as many sessions as you want. You can do them with him whenever you want. I could put you in touch with him if you want to. If it's more like dating, I don't know how much he costs, but Alex from Playing with Fire is someone that I like. Marcus from UMP, which stands for Ultimate Man Project. I like him a decent amount. I can't vouch for either of their coaching because I've never done it. I don't know what their coaching program is. I don't know how much they charge. I know nothing about them, but I trust and like both of them. They've both been unbelievably kind to me for the most part. They talk about honesty and dating. They're not too different from what we talk about. But yeah, other than that, I guess the Play to Win, like from me, the Play to Win video course is the best version of what I teach in coaching anyway. You can pay whatever you want for that. Pay $1 for that if you want to, brother. Pay whatever you want. And then do the actions that are in it. But I know you're asking specifically about the coaching, for the insights, for the accountability, all of that. So yeah, those are kind of the three people that come to my mind. Is my coach, Keith, who's the one I recommend the most, especially for just general mental health. He probably will work a lot less with you on like sex and dating. Like, he isn't going to be the person who's going to be like, all right, here's what you do on your Tinder profile, blah, blah, blah. But if you have dating questions or sex questions, he's very open-minded. He knows about my website and what we talk about and the content we do and all of that. He's someone that would absolutely be able to help you with the general mindsets and stuff like in dating, sex, relationships, and all of that. He's probably just not going to tell you like how to get a girl. He's had a girlfriend for like a couple of years now. They're very happy together, very beautiful relationship. He's not the person that goes out there and does a lot of dating, but I can put you in touch with him if you want to. But yeah, feel free to just maybe add an extra comment down through as I blast the rest of the questions and tell me what your goals are and what you're working on and all of that. All right. Scroll through. I'm just scrolling through and looking for question marks now. I'm kind of scrolling through. Any questions? All right. So you said Marcus who? Marcus from UMP. Jack, you say, I use Marcus for social skills coaching. That's cool. Yeah. All right. You said mostly mental health habit. Okay. Keith, my coach, Keith. Yeah. 100% for that stuff. Keith. What's his Instagram? Let me find his Instagram for you. Might take me a minute to find that. But yeah, he's like one of my favoriteest people of all time. He's done all of my coaching and Imi's coaching. He's been my coach for the last, 4 years. It's like KJ Coaching, kj.coaching, Instagram. Let me find it. Found it. Here you go. I will put it in the chat. There you go. That's Keith. I guess I'll also show it on the screen. But yeah, he's great. He'll work with you on happiness, mental health, spirituality, stuff like that. Like whatever it is that you want to work on, he will work on that with you. And he's incredible. He's like really, really incredible. So much of what I talk about in my content comes from him. I said that already, but I have literally done, I believe I even did a podcast. I can find it for you if you want. Or I said like 5 things my coaches have taught me. And I talk specifically about him and a couple of things that he, like the mindset shifts that he gave me that genuinely have changed my life. So yeah, he's done a lot to change my life. He's such a like nice person too. I think you'd really like talking to him. I think you'd find him a breath of fresh air as well. He's very like honest, and he'll call you out on stuff as well. And he'll like, but in a nice way. He's like one of the nicest people. So this is his Instagram. Just search for kj.coaching. I also put a link in the chat as well there. But yeah, he's great. And he used to be a bodybuilder and a fitness instructor. He still technically does that a little bit. So he's got a great body and all of that. But he went through such a really cool journey. He put all this effort into his fitness. And I mean, look at his profile picture. He's like perfect body. And he put all this effort into that. And he went hardcore with self-improvement. He went down the route of like dating and sleeping with people for a little bit. And he just put all of his effort into like getting girls and looking good and all of that. And at some point, once he'd achieved all his goals, including his money goals and everything, he's like, but why am I still not happy? Like, I thought this shit was the stuff that you're supposed to have as a man. Why am I still not happy? And it clicked. And he realized, with the help of a lot of other people, he had his own mentors and books and stuff like that. He realized like the same thing that I sort of realized as well, which is like, happiness is something that you just have to let yourself do. And if you've been telling yourself that I'll be happy when I make money, or I'll be happy when I get a girlfriend, you've probably been just selling your happiness and saying, I'm not going to do anything to let myself be happy now. You're basically saying, I'm not allowed to be happy until I achieve these goals, or I will be happy when I achieve these goals. You've been procrastinating happiness. And so it clicked for him at some point. He's like, wait, I'm allowed to be happy. I could have been happy the whole time. I just didn't know that. And I had the same epiphany. It took me until I'd had a lot of sex and been with, no, I figured this out before Emmy. So when I'd had a lot of sex, I realized like, wait, shit, sex in itself isn't going to make me happy. Or I thought it would, but it hasn't. I've conquered all my sex goals. I've done crazy stuff in the bedroom with women. I've done everything I could ever imagine. There's still more stuff I could do, but like I've done a lot of stuff and it didn't really make me happier. It was fun. It was enjoyable. I'm glad I did it, but maybe I need to just let myself be happy. And that's when I started saying, okay, I can be happy while I have sex. I don't have to like have this rat race until I achieve the next threesome or the next crazy thing. I can do those things, but I can be grateful for the journey. In other words, I can enjoy the journey and I have to wait until I achieve the goal before I'm happy. So yeah, Keith basically had the same realizations as that and the same epiphanies as that. And so that's sort of what he'll help you with. He will absolutely push you with your goals, but he will make absolutely sure that you are absolutely 100% like enjoying every step of it. Like he will absolutely fucking make sure that you're grateful and all of that stuff. So yeah, I highly recommend him. You say, how did Keith do all of that without having the eternal stuff sorted? Because as we've discussed many times, mate, you don't have to be perfect. Like you really don't. You don't have to be perfect with anything. Yeah, okay, obvious throwaway. Yep. Said exactly what I just said. You don't have to have everything perfect to succeed in a goal. Like you really don't. You never have to be perfect. You're probably never going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Like, you're just not going to be, brother. Like, who you are right now, Phoenix, you are absolutely capable of improving. Remember, I was fucking depressed and suicidal. If that guy can be this guy today, then you absolutely can too, brother. Like, you really don't have to be perfect, man. Obvious throwaway. Yeah, kind of what you said. Like, a lot of players, as in people that have had a lot of sex, don't really know how to build a long-term relationship because they only worked on the sex part and not the growth as a person part. Yeah, and there's lots of overlap, but relationships have their own sort of skills that you learn, like compassion, patience, not needing the other person to do everything you want them to do at all times, like all of that sort of stuff. It's its own set of skills. I've done enough videos on relationships on my channel, and there's a whole playlist on relationships. And the good news is you can work on those skills while you're just having casual sex. If you want to have casual sex, like you can absolutely work on a relationship skills. It's not one or the other. A lot of people go out, a lot of men
go out, have a ton of sex. I guess women do too. A lot of people go out, have a ton of sex, like casual sex. And then they get to the point where they're like, all right, I want a relationship. And they're like, I don't fucking know what to do now. And they really have no clue because they thought that casual sex was this completely separate thing from relationships and never the two shall meet. And it's like, no, in a casual relationship, you can be working on your relationship skills. You can be working on unconditional love, on patience, on kindness, on compassion, all of that stuff while having casual sex. So yeah, they're not two separate things. They're not two separate chapters of your life. They kind of overlap nicely if you work on both of them. Jack, you say, what tactics does Keith use? I guess I would say he's more like a counselor or a like therapist, but at the same time, the same tactics is a funny word. The same like stuff that I do, which is like I hold up a mirror to you and I'll say gently, is that true? Like, is what you're going through true? Is what you're thinking true? Is there a different way we can look at this? And it'll get you to sort of gently focus on the positive. He very much will focus on action. He'll work on showing you that you're okay right now. And all we're doing is just working on having a little bit more. Like, you are all okay as you are right now. You're good enough as you are. And every day we're just working on becoming, you know, our future self. But who you are right now in this moment, you're more than good enough. You're more than capable. So yeah, positivity, all of that. You're going to say the one who helped me the most was the one who got me to do a habit tracker and meditate, read, and do gratitude in the morning. Yeah, a lot of that is him. He is the one that does something or encouraged me to do the thing I've talked about a lot in content, which is you say, I love you to yourself in the mirror. That came from him. And I really struggled with that at first. I was like, I can't do that. That's gay. I had all those thoughts. And then I did it. I've done it every day for the last like 2 or 3 years now. Incredibly beneficial. So that comes from him. Meditation and gratitude, sure, from him. He will also do guided meditations with you if you want him to. He's done tons with me. So if he can see you're stressed about something, he will walk you through a meditation. Like literally, he'll be like, close your eyes, we're going to do this thing. He'll walk you through a guided meditation. Afterwards, you'll feel like absolutely blissful. He's very good at getting you to focus on the present and worry less about anxieties. He's just like a therapist / spiritual coach / meditator / get you to focus on taking action when you need to. Very good at helping you enjoy the process. He was someone that helped me bring a lot more joy to my content at a time when I was sort of struggling. There was a time, there's been a couple of these moments where you probably wouldn't be able to tell in the content, but I've put shitloads of pressure on myself at times where I'm like, I have to be perfect. I have to do a good job. I have to change people's lives. I even sometimes put that pressure on myself now, but less so. And he would just gently coach me through that and be like, you know, this is allowed to be fun. The entire reason why you're doing content is because you want to help people, because you think helping people will make you happier. So why don't you just be happy while you do that? Don't sacrifice your happiness. Don't sacrifice and struggle and compromise and go through hell to do the thing that you think will make you happier. Just be happy while you do it. So that came from him. Yeah, there's been a lot of times he will gently, lovingly, he's very loving, call me out on stuff and be like, hey man, like, does it really have to be the way that you're saying? Like if I say, man, I'm stressed because I got to do all this content. He's like, you don't have to do anything. You have to do this content. Is that true? So he's really good with all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. All right. I feel like that's it. That's like most of the comments or most of the questions, I guess. So yeah, like I said tomorrow, I'm going to focus more on maybe just only focusing on comments and questions that are like improvement focused, like self-improvement focused, and less so about like debating or opinions or emotions or any of that sort of stuff. You can all share your emotions and opinions. I'm just going to focus more on like actually helping, which is what I'm here for. Like, I will admit I was the one that got caught up in like the discussions or the debates as much as anyone else. But yeah, I would like to focus solely on helping people. I would like to focus solely on giving advice. That is what these are here for. Like, that's why I'm here. I literally just want to answer your questions. And I'm less interested in like debates, opinions, angry frustrations, arguments. I'm not interested in arguments at all, if I'm honest. Like, especially when I'm doing these for free. I would not let people debate in a coaching call, and I guess I'm treating these as a coaching call. I would like to have these be coaching calls. Think of these live streams as free coaching. That's why I've called them sort of free coaching, and I say they're free coaching. And in a coaching call, if someone was debating with me, I'd let them debate a fair bit. And then at some point, because that happens sometimes people debate and argue. And at some point, I'm just like, look, which one of us is happy and peaceful? And they're like, well, you. Okay. So you're going to stop arguing with me when our mission is to help you be happier and peaceful? Or sometimes I'll do it in a more gentle way. And I'll be like, look, you right now are getting caught up in stuff that doesn't matter. Are you happy right now as we're having this argument? And they're like, not really. And I'm like, okay. Would you like to be on the same team and just work towards the goal of helping you be happy? And they're like, okay. So yeah, I don't really let that stuff go on. And I guess I didn't let it go on too long here either today, but tomorrow you can all do whatever you want. I am going to make a conscious effort as the head of this live stream and as the person here to try and help all of you to focus solely on questions, solely on what you're struggling with, less so on debates, especially when we get caught up in weeds and like getting caught in the weeds about shit that really doesn't matter. Like, and I'm the first person to admit that. I was the one talking about the news just as much as anyone else. So yeah, let's focus on that stuff. Phoenix, maybe bring this question tomorrow, brother. We used to like, what can I do to make the most of the small town I'm stuck in? Bring that question tomorrow. That's a really great question. Obvious throwaway. See ya, Andy. Yeah, see you, boys and girls. I'll run the little coaching outro at the end. I'm going to go get some food, lay on the couch. I wish you all a beautiful day. I wish you all a beautiful evening. You're all doing a bloody good job. Like I said, that big speech I gave about how I'm really impressed with all of you and you're doing such an incredible job. And I'm super grateful. Yeah, I'm super grateful for all of you.
What a nice, juicy shot of motivation when it comes to making money. Check out what these absolute legends have done in our coaching program. Laz more than doubled his monthly income from 25,000 US dollars a month to 45K a month. Dimitri started his own business and earned his first $500 within his first 2 months. Ravi followed in my footsteps and created his own kick-ass coaching business, motivating other people and changing the world. Joe started his own successful photography and dating business, quitting his job and earning tons of money, all while helping guys get the dating life they've always dreamed of. None of these people are special. Come and join our coaching program and have us save you years of figuring out the business world yourself. You deserve to have money. You deserve to have a big, sexy, fat bank account, and we'd love to help you make that happen. Click the link in the description below to the coaching program. We can't wait to see you there.